Let me tell you about the most expensive spiritual education, that I never asked for. It was 8 years, $25,000, multiple Joe Dispenza retreats, and I sat next to people having mystical experiences. And I'm over here like, my God, what about me? And so I became that person, that type. The friend who somehow turns every casual conversation into a spiritual intervention. Good morning became good morning, but did you know your morning routine is blocking your manifestations? Oh, don't get me started on my family. Sunday dinners went from normal family time to me holding everyone hostage, telling them about their pineal gland. Meanwhile, I'm checking my bank account like it's social media, hoping for a miracle. I'm checking my emails, hoping that there is some miracle that's there waiting for me, hoping I win the lottery. Spoiler alert: manifesting doesn't work when you are having anxiety attacks over having no money, or that it's actually hard to make money as well. But the thing is, and it's gonna sound crazy, I was doing almost everything wrong. Not just a little wrong, like spectacularly embarrassing wrong. For years. I was that guy meditating for hours, sometimes 4 hours a day. I would visualize abundance, then immediately stress about money. That is like going to the gym, having an amazing workout, then stopping at McDonald's on the way home. Every single day. And look, I'm about to save you from becoming me 3 years ago, which was a walking contradiction who could quote Joe Dispenza better than most people, or better than most people quote movies, but I still had the nervous system of a baby that just drank coffee. So this is not another think positive and unicorns will appear video, or money will come out of nowhere. But this is me laying out exactly what I wish someone had slapped me in the face in day one. The stuff that actually works. The stuff that took me from stressing about money, struggling to get my business profitable, to, having an account worth refreshing. And disclaimer, I'm about to hurt some feelings and probably offend everyone who thinks vision boards or affirmations are the answer to everything. But if you are tired of being a meditation expert with the manifestation skills of a broken slot machine, then you might want to stick around. So take some notes and apply this formula so you can actually manifest whatever it is that you are wanting to call into your life as well. And we are starting with the biggest problem. And you probably don't even know that you have it. Imagine waking up and you check your phone and immediately your day is now hijacked by other people's energy, social media pulling you into whatever article you witnessed, and maybe your boss sends you a passive-aggressive email, or you're on Instagram scrolling and your ex posts something that triggers you. And now you're suddenly living your entire day in reaction mode. And the thing is, 98% of people are living their lives in reaction mode, and we don't even realize it. And I know this because I was one of them, and honestly, I still react sometimes, but not as bad as before. But being in reaction mode all the time nearly destroyed everything. And so I want to show you how to actually break free from this unconscious prison and actually step into creation mode, where you actually control your reality instead of being controlled by reality itself. And back then, I was living what looked like a successful life on the outside, but within, I would confess that I was a complete mess. And every morning I would wake up and literally within 10 minutes, I was already plugged into my past, because I would instantly check my phone because it was under my pillow. And I would see all the emails that I needed to respond to, the problems that I needed to be fixed, and I would remember all the stress that I would be living. And boom, just like that, same stress chemicals that kept me anchored to yesterday's reality. And I would get emails and messages from my business partner, who turned out to be a complete narcissist, and I would immediately react to those emails and messages. If the stock market was down, I would react. If someone were to criticize my work or leave a nasty comment, I would react. If I was having a problem with my relationship, or my partner would trigger me, I would react, right? And it felt like I was a pinball in a pinball machine, just literally just bouncing off whatever hit me next. And the most embarrassing part was I thought I was being responsive and on top of things. That's what I thought. But really, I was just being reactive and literally out of control. I was life's bitch, basically. And it felt like I was being the world's worst DJ. Instead of mixing music, you're just playing literally whatever song someone else puts on, right? So if I was playing stressful songs, then I would get stressed. That's it. Simple as that. But the thing that I didn't understand back then was that when I am in reaction mode, my brain is operating in high beta brainwaves. And this is from Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. When I'm in high beta brainwaves, I'm literally scanning my environment for problems, dangers, and I'm actually looking for things to react to. And so the universe is going to bring me things to react to. And my heart beats out of coherence, right? And I'm producing stress chemicals like cortisol. And that's keeping me anchored and trapped in survival mode. Okay? So my whole chemistry, my whole body, physiology is in survival mode. And if it's in survival mode, then obviously I'm thinking the same thoughts every single day. I'm making the same choices. I'm behaving the same. I'm feeling the same emotions. And then I'm wondering, why is nothing changing in my life? Why is my life not changing? Because I was trying to create a new reality with the same old programming. And here I am thinking I'm trying to get a different result, right? It's like hitting the same button on the vending machine over and over again, expecting to get a different drink. And the crazy part was I was into all of this. I was into Joe's work. I was reading all his books, watching his podcasts. I did his courses, but it felt like nothing was working because I was still operating from survival mode, reaction mode. And I realized I was trying to think my way into a higher dimension, using my analytical mind to think into a higher dimension. And that was impossible. But then life gave me, the wake-up call that I didn't want, but I desperately needed. This was happening for 3 years. My business partner ran away with a lot of money, embezzled money from me. And on top of that, my relationship with my ex-girlfriend was falling apart as well. So there I was in six figures worth of debt, and I'm talking literally debt collectors calling me, final notices, that type of broke. And there was a moment when I was sitting in my room and I was looking at my bank account, and I was just like staring at the ceiling thinking, oh my God, this is it. This is it. And in that moment, in the moment of complete chaos, was actually the perfect condition for creation. I didn't notice it back then, but it hit me a couple of years or a couple of months later. Because when I was at rock bottom, I'm at maximum contrast, right? I'm at the furthest point to where I want to be, which means I had the most potential for change. I'm like, how could it get worse than this? I'm already in the worst situation of my life, right? That's what it felt like. And so in that rock bottom moment, I just completely surrendered, right? And it's what I discovered was that when everything is falling apart, it doesn't mean it's failing, but it meant that my creation or my manifestation was working, because my old reality is literally dying to make space for a new one. And life was asking me, are you ready to stop being a victim of your circumstances and actually start being the creator of your reality, right? Are you ready to stop reacting to things and actually respond as the creator? But back then, my first response was like, hell no, I'm not ready. No way. You know why I said that? Because change is so uncomfortable. But that's just a belief, right? Change is hard and change is uncomfortable was a belief that I believed in. And even though my life was falling apart, I was still trying to hold on my old ways of being. Because like I said, change is so scary. At least my old being was familiar. And it's like being in a bad relationship with yourself. Like, it's not good for you, but at least it's familiar, right? And my old frequency, and I'm going to tell you this, like, it literally is an entity. It's an entity that had been feeding off my emotional energy for years. And it wanted to fight for its survival because it would send me thoughts like, come on, this is who you are. You can't change. This is literally who you are. You're not cut out for this meditation stuff, this spiritual stuff. It doesn't work. And people are already thinking you've lost your mind. Like, what are you doing? and you need to focus on making money right now, not meditating. You're in 6 figures worth of debt. Why are you meditating? Like, those were the actual thoughts that I was having. It's similar to having that friend who always wants to go to the same restaurant, order the same food, but complain about the same food and restaurant. Because they always complain about the same things as well. Like, it's comfortable, but does it help you grow? No. And the funny thing was, I even tried to get back with my ex-girlfriend during that time, and I already knew it was a bad idea. But it felt comfortable to be trapped in familiar patterns, comfortable patterns, because I already knew that that's what I was going to expect, even though it was destroying me. Because the unknown, I didn't even ponder if the grass was greener on the other side. But I had to learn the hard way. And you can't create a new reality while holding onto your old identity. It's similar to trying to upgrade your phone's software while refusing to delete the old version, okay? Like, you can't sit on 2 chairs at once as well. And this is where quantum physics, neuroscience, neuroplasticity, it all started becoming clear to me. Because even Joe says that there's an intelligence within us that's organizing trillions of functions every second. That intelligence is keeping our heart beating, it's digesting our food, pumping blood throughout our system. And we don't even have to think about it. It's keeping us into life. It's keeping us alive. And it's loving us into life. And so, in that moment of surrender, when I said this is it, it was that surrendering to that intelligence is what I needed to tap into to create real change. And something that stuck with me is that your body doesn't know the difference between an actual experience and one that we are creating by thought alone. However, we have been led to believe that imagination, or like doing internal mental work, is childish. You know what I mean? That's why I could be broke in my 3D reality, but wealthy in my meditation. And my body would start producing the chemicals of wealth. And so I was creating those neurological pathways every time I did a mental rehearsal or a imaginary scene. However, when we were in survival states, which I was living in 24/7, I'm living in the hormones of stress. And so when I shifted to creation mode, then I would start producing hormones of creation, like abundance. And so the prerequisite of that is getting into heart-brain coherence. So I needed to get into a deeply relaxed state before I do any of these practices. Now, I had to make a decision though. I had to make a decision. Was I going to keep living in reaction mode, or was I ready to stop being a victim and start living in creation mode? One decision. Now, this isn't about positive thinking or even buying crystals and hoping for the best, but it requires you to make a decision and just surrender. Not giving up control, but giving up control to a higher form of control, that intelligence that I was talking about just then. And so every morning, before I check my phone, 10 minutes upon waking up, before plugging into the chaos of the world, I would go straight into meditation, right? Become no body, no one, no thing, nowhere, in no time. Let go and release the identity that is named Kevin. And my analytical mind would fight me hard on this, right? Stop meditating. You need to get out of debt. You need to do more work. You have bills to pay. You need to check your emails. Look at your calendar. You've got a full calendar. What are you doing sitting down? And so that old frequency, my old self, is trying to keep me trapped into reaction mode, right? Because it's sitting in the throne of my heart. It's in control. However, I needed to take back control. And so disconnecting from the outer world and closing my eyes to meditate, what I'm doing is my brainwaves would go from that stressful high beta stress state and drop down into alpha and theta brainwave state, where real change can happen. But in order to do that, I needed to keep relaxing myself, keep relaxing my body. Don't listen to those thoughts. And so our body, which has become the mind of our past emotions, is now sending those thoughts to me because it's going to fight me, right? You can't sit still. This is not working. 45 minutes, that is a lot of time. You could have done so much time. You could have done so much in that time. You should be productive doing something. But that is the moment people quit. Oh my God, I can't meditate. This is not working. And I learned that those thoughts aren't yours. Like I said, it's the old programming that is trying to maintain control. So we do not have to listen to them. We actually shouldn't listen to them. Now, when I'm in creation mode, it wasn't just all meditation and manifestation, but every single day, every moment was a test. My old frequency would try 3 specific tricks to test me, right? It would make me doubt the process, right? This manifestation stuff is complete bullshit. Meditation doesn't work. Breathing, relaxing, what the hell is that gonna do? It's too simple. And it would create urgency, right? You need to fix this now. You need to get yourself out of debt now. Right? Go apply for a job. Go do something. And it would pull me back into guilt. You're so selfish for trying to do this. You're so selfish for meditating 1 whole hour for yourself. Ha! And it tested me by giving me more bills, more problems, more chaos. But instead of reacting, I used emotional alchemy, turning chaos into fuel. Similar to as responding, right? I started to become aware. So every time something went wrong, instead of letting it trigger me, I would acknowledge that, it's my old self, right? I would understand that that's just the mechanics of transformation. Like that, these thoughts that I'm observing during meditation, that's not me. And so those thoughts that arise in chaos, that's not me, right? And let me tell you, community, when you are in this stage, is so important, because the few select people that do this work, who understand the work, the books that reinforce these concepts, and most importantly, my higher self that was guiding me through meditation, those were so important. They were pulling me up. And so I would encourage you to seek those things: community, information, and your higher self. And it's so supportive that when you have people to remind you that this is just kind of like a phase of, it's your old identity trying to pull you back, your old patterns trying to pull you back in, right? So that's very important. But I discovered that the strongest frequency always wins. Okay? I had to maintain my new state, like how I feel after meditation, regardless of what was happening in my external environment, right? When things are falling apart, I had to remain responded in a coherent state of being. Like, I understood that the debt was real, right? The business problems are real. I'm not trying to bypass them or avoid them. My relationship issues were real. But I was learning to live from my desired frequency instead of my current circumstances, right? My old self would complain, blame. Instead of my new self would be responding in a calm state. And there's an innermost cave where you have to choose between your old frequency or your new one. Even when there is no external evidence that the new desired reality is working yet, or you can't even see any evidence of it whatsoever. That is the real work. And I remember getting, those notices of, come on, you got to pay us now. But instead of panicking, which was my old reaction, I would use this energy to fuel my conviction towards my desired reality. I would be like, okay, thank you for showing me what I need to transform, right? I wasn't bypassing my problems or ignoring reality, because if you ignore reality, or if you ignore your problems, reality will ignore you. And I was doing that a lot. I was spiritually bypassing a lot. So I was accepting and allowing the situation while maintaining my new frequency. So you're going to be a master of your emotions. But then there was a moment. It was a moment where my old frequency wanted to make one final stand, the last battle. And everything got worse before it got better. I was losing more money, investing in dumb courses, and that was from my old frequency. My relationships was causing more drama and just more business chaos. And it felt like a spiritual depression, but it's not normal, like not regular depression where it pulls you down, but spiritual depression that actually pushes you up, okay? And I was sitting in my room feeling like I was like losing my mind, and I was losing the mind of my old self, because everything that I cared about felt meaningless. But what I didn't realize was that this depression phase is the gap between frequencies. This is the old self and the new self, and I was in the middle. But this is where most people panic and run back to their old frequency. And the universe just literally wants energetic equilibrium. So when we try to step out of our current frequency, it tries to bring you back into balance, okay? It's like, whoa, you're doing something new, but this is how you've always been. And I learned something important. It's that when things get worse, it's not because we are doing something wrong. It's because our old frequency is so desperate to keep you, and it's literally dying, right? It wants to live. We've invested so much energy into it that it wants to live. It's a living thing. And so here's what I did. I had to stop being nice. Stop getting walked all over. Stop trying to please everyone. Stop shrinking myself. Because the universe doesn't care if you're nice, but it responds to your frequency, your state of being, okay? I want to clarify that there's a difference between being nice and being kind. Being nice is someone that is pushed all over, walked all over, and being kind is just from the heart. And so there was a moment where it just clicked, and I was just living in my desired frequency more than my old one. Instead of just using my will now, it was me. It was just my own state of being. I embodied it. It just clicked into place. And I didn't have to try as hard to embody my new state of being. I was that new state of being. And then one day, I checked my junk mail on one of my email addresses, and there was a solution. The solution to my debt, my 6 figures worth of debt, in the junk mail, out of all places. And the solution came from the unknown. That's what Joe says. It has to come from the unknown. But long story short, I had an opportunity to sell a property that I thought was a shitty, bad investment. And I got out of my debt very, very quickly. I think in about 3 to 6 months, that money went into my account and I was out of debt. And the reward wasn't just the external success, but that internal freedom that I felt and feeling that I was no longer victims of my circumstances, but I was the creator of my reality. And the real reward was understanding that you can only have what you already have. Because our desired reality already exists. And I thought that I needed to create it, but it's not something that needs to be created. It's something that we need to access it. Okay? That's that highest state of being, of version of yourself already is there. We just need to tap into it. We just need to be it. Now, the part where most people mess up, and where I messed up, is when I'm about to have my breakthrough moment, I go back to my old ways, right? I would be doing this work for 30 days, and then I would be broke again. Like I would be in a negative even more. And I'd be like, this doesn't work. Throw everything away. But I had to learn to maintain my new state of being regardless of external circumstances. Because like I said, the strongest frequency wins. The name of the game is consistency. Every morning I would continue to practice, and every time something triggered me with my eyes open, I would use it as fuel instead of letting it derail me or going back to my old frequency. Now every time my old frequency will try to pull me back in, I would hesitate. I would center myself and be like, no, that's my old self. And then I would get myself back into neutrality and go back to my desired reality. And you don't have to feel good all the time, but it's having the awareness to be present with whatever is happening around you without any resistance. Wow. And the real test is maintaining this new frequency when everything is going well. That's the real test. And success can be just as challenging as failure, because your old frequency will try to convince you that you don't deserve it. This is not going to last long. This is only a luck. You just got lucky, right? But I learned that true high frequency isn't about constant positivity, high vibes all the time, but it's about the ability to be present with any emotion without resistance. The universe treats you exactly how you treat your emotions. Remember that. The universe treats you exactly how you treat your emotions. And so I was reborn, not as someone new, but as who I really was at the core. Because the caterpillar doesn't become something other than itself, right? It still is it. It becomes what it was always meant to be. But please, you don't have to go through what I went through. A huge dark night of the soul. You don't have to hit rock bottom to wake up. Because reality isn't just a physical game, but it's also mental and spiritual. And we can't change our reality through physical action alone. You can, but that's takes way too long. It's exhausting. This is way better because you just change your frequency first. Change within first. So stop living in reaction mode. Stop being a victim of your circumstances, of the 3D things that are happening. And please stop waiting for your external world to change before you change your internal world. It's backwards. It's backwards. Because the real question is, are you ready to stop living in reaction mode and step into creation mode? And so, if you want to do that, then this video is going to help you so much. But if you want to break free from your old frequency and want my help with it, then please book an alignment session with me as well. But you just have to remember, you can't receive anything unless it's given to yourself first. So give yourself permission to change and get rid of the belief that change is hard and that is uncomfortable, right? Give yourself permission to evolve. Give yourself permission to become who you are meant to be. Because honestly, the choice is yours. You're just one decision away. You can stay in reaction mode and keep getting the same results, or step into creation mode and decide to step into creation mode and start creating the reality that you actually want. You are basically a human ping pong ball getting smacked around by life. But don't worry, we've all been there. And I spent most of my 20s as a professional reactor. But this is where it gets interesting. And even though when you know you are in reaction mode, even when you start meditating to fix it, there is this one thing that'll sabotage everything. This one thing. And imagine this, okay? I'm sitting there, trying to meditate, trying to get zen, and my nervous system is like, in the background, it's having a full meltdown. It's like, dude, we're gonna die. Why are you sitting still? That is like trying to have a peaceful moment while someone is literally setting off fireworks in the same room as you. And so your body literally thinks meditation is dangerous when you are stuck in survival mode or when you are experiencing survival mode. And 3 years, I fought with my own nervous system before I even figured this out. I thought my meditation practice was broken because I couldn't calm my mind, but it turns out my entire nervous system was stuck in fight or flight. And every technique that I tried was making it worse. And so what I learned was that if my nervous system was already overwhelmed, then doing cold plunges, taking a cold shower, pushing through resistance is not going to regulate me. It actually dysregulates me even more. And so when I meditate and try to create my future, I would feel so separate from it. And then I would open my eyes and feel the lack of not having what I just created during meditation. And so I had this constant feeling that I was fighting my own body every time I would try to meditate. And then, those thoughts, right? You're not spiritual enough. You're not doing it right. But I wasn't doing it right, actually. But then this one quote from Dr. Joe actually changed everything for me. You can't create from survival mode. Then it hit me. I wasn't failing at meditation, but my nervous system was literally incapable of accessing the states that I needed for transformation, for creation. And so everything changed when I shifted from trying to force regulation with these cold showers and stuff to actually supporting my nervous system. My meditations became effortless, my creation started flowing, and for the first time in years, I felt safe in my own body. And so today I'm going to show you exactly how to tell if your nervous system is sabotaging your spiritual practice. And the specific mistakes that kept me stuck in fight or flight for I think years, and the simple daily practices that finally shifted me into the parasympathetic state where all transformation happens, where everything starts. Because nervous system regulation isn't just a nice to have type of thing, but it's the foundation that makes everything else possible. So I'm excited for this. And what I didn't understand is that this is where Dr. Joe's work becomes important, is that your nervous system has two main modes. You've got your sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight response. This is the, oh shit, there is a tiger mode, okay? And then there is the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest mode. This is the, everything's cool, everything's chill, let's heal and create mode, all right? However, most of us modern human beings, we are stuck in the sympathetic mode. So what does that mean? We are living like there is a tiger chasing us 24/7. But listen very carefully. The tiger is your mortgage, your boss, your Instagram notifications, that one friend who always has something to share about how shitty their life is. The one that complains a lot, you know what I mean? And the thing is, I was trying to meditate while my nervous system was basically screaming, dude, we're under attack, like there is danger out there. And so it's like trying to perform surgery during an earthquake. I'm sorry to say, but the conditions aren't right. They're not in your favor. They weren't in my favor. And so you cannot create from survival mode. When we are in fight or flight, our body is literally designed to focus on an immediate threat that is in front of us or that is happening right now. For me, it was my debt. It is not a time for long-term creation, let alone manifestation. It puts blood in your extremities to either run, fight, or hide. And then your prefrontal cortex shuts down. But there I was, trying to manifest abundance while my nervous system was trying to convince me that there was danger because I had 6 figures worth of debt. It was the same as trying to order a meal while someone is chasing you with a chainsaw. Like, come on dude, we got your priorities a little bit mixed up right now. The worst part was that all the techniques that I was doing, cold showers, that's a stressor. It was making everything worse, right? Pushing through resistance, oh, that's literally fighting my own system. What was I doing? And so I was basically taking my already overwhelmed nervous system and saying, hey, let's add a little bit more stress to this situation. That is gonna fix it. Oh man. It is like being dehydrated and deciding that, oh my God, I'm dehydrated. So I'm gonna eat salt. Because technically salt is important for your body, but timing and context matters, people. Okay? So let me break down what was actually happening in my body. Because it's gonna help you understand why this matters so much. When you are stressed the hell out all the time, you've memorized being stressed out all the time. Your body is producing stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline constantly. That's why we rush all the time. That's why we can't sit in meditation, because we want to start ticking off stuff to do in our to-do list, right? These hormones are great for short-term survival, but they are terrible for long-term health and definitely terrible for meditation or manifestation. Think about it like this. Cortisol is having like a really aggressive personal trainer who never lets you rest. At first it might seem helpful, like maybe the first session, like, come on, push harder, one more rep, don't stop. But after months, you're not gonna get stronger, you're actually just gonna burn out, or you're gonna put yourself in hospital, right? And Dr. Joe talks about how these stress chemicals are literally changing your brain. When we are constantly stressed, we strengthen the neural pathways associated with survival and weaken the ones associated with creation and higher consciousness. Basically, it is like your brain is becoming really, really good at being anxious. Listen carefully. And really, really bad at being peaceful, right? You have basically trained yourself to be a professional worrier. Worrier, not warrior. Worrier. You always worry. But here's what blew my mind. The parasympathetic nervous system isn't just about relaxation, but it's about creation. When you are parasympathetic dominance, your body produces completely different chemicals. Instead of cortisol, you get oxytocin. That is the love hormone. Instead of adrenaline, you get the neurotransmitter that chills you out. And that is when manifestation becomes possible. Dr. Joe says that elevated emotions like gratitude, joy, love are the magnetic force that draws experiences to us. However, listen carefully, we cannot access these emotions when we are in survival mode. And I see this when I try to help my clients. They're trying to access these elevated emotional states that require them to be super relaxed while their nervous system is stuck in stress. This is usually like the first week that we work together. It is like trying to meditate in the middle of a fire alarm and you're not using your noise cancelling headphones. So your body is literally designed to pay attention to that alarm and not transcend into higher consciousness. So there I was, sitting in meditation, wondering why I couldn't access these beautiful elevated emotional states or higher conscious states while my nervous system was basically having a panic attack in the background, right? And we wonder why we can't sleep while drinking a double espresso shot. The conditions aren't right. And so there was a huge mistake that I was making. I was trying to push through resistance. Because I heard it in YouTube all the time. They talk about push through resistance, right? Feel the resistance and push through it. But resistance is just your ego trying to keep us small. So I'm sitting in meditation, feeling this intense discomfort in my body, like my shoulders are so tight. Instead of listening to this discomfort, I'm like, not today, resistance. I am going to transcend you. But it turns out that resistance was my nervous system. It was yelling at me, saying, hey bro, we're not safe right now. Maybe you should address that first before you try to achieve enlightenment, or try to get yourself out of debt, or try to become abundant or manifest abundance. But no, I was determined to be a spiritual badass. I was trying to meditate my way through a nervous system breakdown. Okay? It actually almost killed me because I was creating scenarios in my head that were not aligned with my desired reality during meditation. That is like getting food poisoned at a health food store. Something clearly is not working, okay? So what changed? What changed? Well, the universe smacked me in the face as usual. I was listening to one of Joe's lectures and he said something that stopped me in my tracks, stopped me from scrolling in my phone. You know what I mean? He said, listen carefully, you have to feel safe to heal. Feel safe to heal. Oh, such a simple concept. Feel safe to heal. Feel safe to heal. And I realized I had been approaching my nervous system like it was my enemy. Like it was this thing that I needed to overcome or defeat. But your nervous system isn't your enemy. It is your protection system. It is keeping you alive. It's keeping you alive. And when your protection system doesn't feel safe, it is going to let you access, or it's not going to let you access those vulnerable states required for deep healing, for deep transformation, for manifestations, miracles. It is like having an overprotective bodyguard. They're not trying to ruin your life. They're just trying to protect you. But if they think that everything is a threat, then they're going to keep you locked inside instead of what you really need to do is go outside and live your life. Make sense? So I completely flipped my approach. Instead of trying to override my nervous system, I started working with it. Instead of pushing through resistance, I started listening to it, listening to my body, listening to my nervous system. And the first thing I had to do was create safety. Not just mental safety, but physiological safety. And remember, Dr. Joe talks about this. Your body keeps the score. It remembers every trauma. It remembers everything you say. It remembers every stress, every time you felt unsafe. And until you address that stored stress, I'm sorry to say, you're going to keep operating from survival mode. Now, I had to go back to the basics. Like really basic stuff. Like really embarrassingly basic. And now I live for the basics. I live for the foundations. It's what I teach my clients. Guess what I did? I started with gentle movement. No intense workouts that would spike my cortisol, but gentle stretching, walking, things that would signal to my nervous system that, hey, it's safe. Then I started with breath work. Not the intense breath work, but simple, slow breathing. The kind of breathing that says, hey, nervous system, we are not running from anything right now. Let's take our time. let's relax. It is time to start this rejuvenation, this digestion, recovery process. Just like you are receiving a massage, you are relaxed, deep breathing, you are just receiving that kind of breathing. Just find that comfortable rhythm. This is not a revolutionary concept. And also I started paying attention to my environment, making sure my space felt safe and comfortable. Soft lighting, comfortable temperature, no sudden noises or distractions, clean environment. And basically I started treating my nervous system like a scared animal. Okay? Sounds weird, but stay with me, because it needed to be coaxed out of hiding. It is not an enemy, it just needed to be comforted. Okay? It didn't need to be conquered. It needed to feel safe, like petting it, like I pet my cats. And you know what? Slowly and gradually, I started calming down. Not just during meditation, but throughout the day. It was like finally taking off shoes that had been too tight. You don't realize how much tension that you had been carrying until it all starts to release. Best feeling. Disclaimer. Spoiler alert, best feeling. Okay, so are you ready for this? I want to show you exactly what actually works. The approach that finally got my nervous system out of fight or flight, chronic fight or flight, and into a state where spiritual practices could actually be 1,000,000 times more effective. Okay, write this down. First, and this is so crucial, you have to start where you are. Not where you want to be, but where you are. If your nervous system is dysregulated, you cannot jump straight into advanced practices like creation, like a mental rehearsal. You have to build the foundation first. Think of it like a workout, right? If you haven't exercised in years, you don't start with running a marathon. You have to start by walking around the block. Same thing with your nervous system regulation, okay? The first practice I implemented was throughout the day, I would take tiny moments to signal to my body, to my nervous system, hey, it's safe, okay? Signal safety to your nervous system. Things like taking slow, deep breaths throughout the day, placing my hand in my heart and saying, I'm safe, right? Looking at my environment and consciously noticing that there are no immediate threats right now, right? Obviously, my mind is going to try to butt in and say, what about your 6 figures worth of debt? But come on, does someone have a gun to my head telling me to pay that entire amount now? No. It sounds so ridiculously simple, but remember, your nervous system responds to signals, not logic. You've got to speak its language. So that's number one. The second practice was progressive muscle relaxation, or AKA softening up your body. But with a twist. Instead of just tensing and releasing muscles, I would speak to each part of my body that was tense. Okay? My shoulders carried a lot of tenseness. I would say, thank you so much for carrying all of this, but you can relax now, it's okay. Let go of all that tension. It's safe to let go, right? Whatever body part is so tense with you, just do it as well. And this may sound woo-woo or corny or cheesy, but hey, your body responds to your conscious communication. When you acknowledge your body's efforts, you give it permission to relax, and it actually does. Number 3, this practice is what I call nervous system nutrition. Just like your body needs certain nutrition to function, your nervous system needs certain inputs to regulate. Things like gentle movement, sunlight. Sunlight is so important. Nature, soothing music, warm baths, gentle touch, caressing, you know what I mean? Slow breathing. My favorite word is relax. And okay, this is important. Positive social connection. Your nervous system co-regulates with other nervous systems as well. When you are around calm, regulated people, it helps your system calm down too. When you are around stressed, dysregulated people, well, you can't help but trigger your stress response as well. This is why the people you spend time with matter so much for your spiritual practice. You're not just sharing ideas, you are sharing nervous system states, okay? They're all interfering, communicating with one another. Now finally, the game changer. Instead of just meditating for an hour and overwhelming my system, I started with 5 minutes. I started with 5 minutes of conscious breathing, coherence breathing before meditation. Okay? I started to notice and feel what was happening in my body and not try to change it. That's it. Just get it relaxed as much as possible. And here's where it gets interesting. Once my nervous system started to become regulated, everything else started working. Those meditation techniques that had been impossible before, suddenly, effortless, right? Feeling the space became so easy. The manifestation work that felt like I was lying to myself started to feel natural and authentic. It's like I had been trying to drive a car with the parking brakes on the whole time. Once you release the brake, once I regulated my nervous system, everything started flowing. Everything started making sense. My sleep improved, my digestion improved, my relationships improved, even my business started flowing better because I wasn't making decisions from a place of stress. And I wasn't trying to rush to get things done. But I still catch myself rushing to get things done sometimes. Don't get me wrong. It's an ongoing process. And then finally, I started having those mystical experiences. Woohoo! And I had been chasing them for years. Not because I was forcing them, but because my nervous system was so calm. It felt so safe to relax. Enough to access those states naturally, right? And so elevated emotions are the key to manifestation. But you can't access elevated emotions when your nervous system is in survival mode. Once you regulate your nervous system, joy, gratitude, love become default states, and you don't even need to try to manufacture them. You don't even need to try to force them. It is just who we are, for real. Spiritual practices that had felt like work became play. The manifestation techniques that felt forced, effortless. And that peace that I had been seeking outside of myself, I found it within my own regulated nervous system. How funny, how funny. And so, my message to you is, if your spiritual practices aren't working, then don't assume that you are doing them wrong. It is not you. Don't make it about yourself. Check in with your nervous system first. Create that safety within. Regulate first. Promise, I promise. Because you can't create from survival mode. But once you shift from creation mode into creation mode, magic. Expect magic in your life. Your nervous system is not your enemy. It is your foundation. The foundation to everything. Treat it well, please. Treat it well. And it will support every spiritual practice that you want to explore. And I just want to remind you that you are not broken. You are not resistant. You may just be dysregulated. And that can be fixed just by breathing and relaxing. Alright, so your heart and brain have finally agreed to stop fighting and work together. Congratulations. You have now achieved internal peace. Now, and only now, can you actually start talking about manifesting without your entire system filing a restraining order. But this is the moment, or this is the time I became a spiritual equivalent of someone who knows all the ingredients for a chocolate cake but keeps baking, concrete. Meaning I knew Joe's formula, clear intention plus elevated emotion equals manifestation. Look, I could recite it in my sleep. But I was applying it like someone who was trying to build IKEA furniture without looking at the instructions, right? And turns out, listen carefully, the order matters. The order matters. Like really matters. I was trying to manifest from survival mode, which is like trying to have a romantic dinner during a fire alarm or a fire drill. So now I'm going to show you the sequence that actually works, not the one that makes you question your life choices. I sat in meditation every single morning thinking that I was rewiring my brain for abundance. But I was actually strengthening the exact neural pathways that kept me stuck in debt, experiencing struggle in life, anxiety, depression. And I realized that I was meditating in survival mode. That's exactly what I was doing. I was literally reprogramming my subconscious mind to stay broke, stay stressed, stay struggling, stay anxious, all while thinking that I was becoming this abundant, enlightened person because I was simply just meditating, right? And then I discovered something so obvious, yet I completely missed. And that thing changed every single thing for me. And within 6 months of making this shift, not only did I clear my debt, but money started to flow to me like a person who had a one-hit wonder, okay? The crazy part was that I wasn't doing any new techniques. I was doing the same meditations, same mental rehearsals. However, I was approaching it from a completely different place. Like I had been trying to drive a car by sitting in the back seat and then wondering, why the heck am I crashing all the time? Okay? So what I'm about to share isn't another meditation technique or a manifestation hack, but it's the missing piece that Dr. Joe actually talks about all the time. But if you are like me, for years, completely miss it because, I was too busy trying to do the work instead of being the work. And let me tell you right now, there was this one realization that I had that was so counterintuitive that it just felt wrong when I first tried it. Like eating pizza crust first type of wrong. But that's exactly the thing that unlocked everything else for me. So there I was every morning. I'd wake up, sit in my meditation chair, do my hour-long meditation, and I was that guy, right? You know that guy. The guy who turns a simple hangout with friends into a TED Talk about pineal gland. I was that asshole. But deep inside me, I was a mess. I'll admit it. I would check my bank account with the same fear as I would Google symptoms of an illness at 3 a.m. And I would make stupid financial decisions that got me into even more debt because I was in survival mode. And I was pretending I understood abundance. It was like I was intellectually getting A+ in Joe Dispenza's work, but emotionally failing the entire class completely. Like I knew all the concepts in my head, but I wasn't embodying any of them in my heart. That's when I realized my first mistake. I was trying to manifest from my head instead of my heart. You see, I thought manifestation was some intellectual type of process, right? If I understood the concepts, if I visualized clearly enough, if I said the right affirmations, then obviously the universes would respond to me. No. But here's what Dr. Joe actually teaches that I completely missed. And it's that manifestation isn't an intellectual process at all, but it's an emotional one. And I remember sitting one time in meditation one morning, mentally rehearsing winning the lotto, you know what I mean, for the 1000th time. And this thought hit me. It was like a new thought. And it said, you're thinking about abundance, but you're not feeling abundance at all. I was like, whoa. It was true though. I was creating detailed mental pictures of wealth while my body was tense, tight, contracted. My breathing was so shallow. My jaw was clenched. It felt like I was at the dentist. I was visualizing abundance while my body was physically embodying lack. That's when I realized my body doesn't respond to my thoughts, but it responds to my emotions. And my emotions were completely disconnected from what I was actually mentally rehearsing. Think about it like this. It is like trying to drive a car by sitting in the passenger seat or back seat. Okay, the passenger seat. If you're sitting in the passenger seat, you can see the road perfectly. You know exactly where to go, but you're not actually in control of the car. So our emotions are the driver, not our thoughts. And my emotional driver, oh my God, was drunk on anxiety, struggle, making all the wrong turns. And so the body is the unconscious mind. And it doesn't understand English or any language. It only understands the language of feeling, emotions. And so there I was, speaking English with my mind while my body only understood anxiety knees. And guess which one was winning? The body, every single time. And that led me to realize what my second mistake that the second mistake I was making was that I couldn't access elevated emotions because I was stuck in survival mode. And so we can't create a new future while living in the emotions of the past. But I never really understood what that meant until I realized I was literally trying to manifest while my nervous system was in fight or flight. It's like trying to write poetry while you're being chased by a bear or a tiger. Not gonna happen. So every time I sat down to meditate, my body would be flooded with stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. And so my nervous system was screaming, danger, you have debt, your bills are piling up, you've got so many problems in your life, right? In that state, I was trying to access feelings of abundance, gratitude, joy. Even just saying it now, don't you see how silly it is? That is like trying to relax while someone's chasing you with a weapon, right? And so I realized I had to regulate my nervous system first before manifestation could even begin to work. And that was a game changer for me. So I started doing something so simple, yet so profound. And it was before every meditation. Before every meditation, I would sit 10-15 minutes just regulating my nervous system. Deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, heart coherence techniques, or do Dr. Joe's breath. I wasn't even trying to manifest during this time. I was just trying to get my body out of survival mode and into a state where elevated emotions were even possible. Similar to warming your car before going for a drive, or warming up at the gym before you go for a run, or at the gym, right? Doing some warm-up stretches and stuff. And let me tell you, the difference has been night and day. And it was like I'd been trying to tune into a radio station with the power turned off. That's what it was like. Once I got my nervous system regulated, suddenly I could access feelings that had been unavailable. I couldn't access before. And I was like, oh shit, this is what Dr. Joe has actually been talking about this whole time. But this is where it gets really cool, because even after I regulated my nervous system, there was another roadblock that I hit. And this was super counterintuitive. And so listen carefully. The counterintuitive part was that I was still trying to manufacture emotions instead of allowing them to emerge naturally. Let me explain. I would sit there in meditation thinking, okay, now feel abundant, right? Feel grateful, feel joy. I was forcing it. I was trying to generate these emotions through willpower, right? That is like trying to force yourself to laugh at a bad joke. Like, you can make the sound like ha, 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 but it's not the real thing. And it felt fake. It felt fake because it was fake. I was creating what I call forced emotions. And it's imitating the real thing. But it's like the difference between, a forced smile in a photo and a genuine smile that happens when something truly makes you want to smile, or something makes you happy. And so here's the thing. Listen carefully. Our body knows the difference. We cannot fool our nervous system. We can't fool the body. That is like trying to tickle yourself, right? It doesn't work because you know it's coming. So here's what I tried, and this is the counterintuitive approach. Instead of trying to force specific emotions, I just focused on feeling good in the present moment. Not abundant emotions, not anything to be grateful for specifically, just good, relaxed, at ease, softened up. Just like the feeling when you take off your pants or your bra after a long day. I don't wear a bra, but I could imagine it's that freeing. So I stopped trying to manufacture the exact emotional states that I thought would manifest my desires, and instead just allowed myself to feel whatever emotion or elevated emotion naturally emerged when I was just relaxed and present. Sometimes it's just contentment, right? Sometimes it's a subtle joy. Most of the time it's just peace. But it was always authentic. And that authenticity made all the difference. That is like the difference between a real orgasm and a fake one. Your body knows which is which, and so does the universe. So that led me to another discovery, and that there are specific physical sensations that indicate when we are truly in an elevated state. And for years, I'd been meditating without even paying attention to what the heck was happening in my body. But the body is the unconscious mind, subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it. And it keeps score, you know? It keeps score. So I started paying attention to the physical sensations that accompanied genuine elevated emotional states. And I noticed some patterns. So write this down. When I was truly in an elevated state, my breathing would naturally deepen. It would slow down and it would become more full. My shoulders would drop away from the ears like they were finally on vacation, right? Yay! And then there was a warmth in my chest, a slight tingling in my hands, like, slight tingling. My jaw would relax, and something weird would happen is that when I'm in like slowed down brainwave states, my hands would get cold. I googled it, and basically all the blood was rushing into my heart. And so I started using those as guideposts. Whenever I would visualize abundance, I would make sure my jaw wasn't clutched, right? So, but when these physical sensations weren't present, or were present, I knew I was genuinely in an elevated state, even if the emotion wasn't as dramatic as I thought it should be, right? Sometimes I have subtle elevated emotions, sometimes they're big. Just depends on the day. But there's a direct connection between physical sensations and manifestation power. That's what I realized. When your body is relaxed, you're not in survival mode. When you are not in survival mode, you have access to your frontal lobe, to creativity, to possibility. Now this is the generous present moment. The state where you are fully present, fully relaxed, and therefore fully open to receiving. And I finally understood what he meant by that phrase, the generous present moment. It's like when you are so relaxed and so present with someone that time seems to slow down and everything they say feels like a gift. That's the generous present moment, where you can enjoy a sunset, right? And so once I understood that the physical sensations of elevated emotions, I developed another skill. It's just like they just kept stacking on. And it was the ability to recognize and interrupt old thought patterns in real time. Whew, this is a great skill. Our brains are pattern recognition machines. They love to run the same neural pathways over and over again. It's like your brain is a DJ that only knows how to play one song. That's what it's like. So I developed what I call pattern interrupt practice. So throughout the day, I would check in with my body. Body, how you feeling right now? Or even my state of being. What's my state of being like? How's my breathing? Are my shoulders tense? Am I walking around with a slouched shoulder again? Is my jaw clenched? And if I notice those physical signs of stress or survival mode, I'd immediately stop and ask myself, what am I thinking right now? What story am I telling myself? What's on autopilot right now? Then I would catch myself, right? When that would happen, if I'm in survival mode, I would catch myself running an old thought pattern. I don't have enough. This is too expensive. What if I can't pay that bill? You know what I mean? Whatever it was. The magic wasn't in noticing these patterns, but it was interrupting them before they could trigger an emotion, right? I would take 3 deep breaths. I'd place my hand in my heart and consciously relax my body. And then, listen carefully, I wouldn't try to force a positive thought or positive emotion. I would simply ask myself, how would my future self think about this situation? That's it. This question shifted everything because my future self, the abundant, confident person that I was becoming, would see this situation completely different than my past self would. It's like asking, what would Batman do? Except Batman is just a badass future version of you who has their shit together. That's it. You know what I mean? Now this brings me to perhaps the most powerful shift of all, is that I started making decisions from my future self instead of my past self. And I never fully grasped it until I actually started practicing it daily. Every decision, no matter how small or big, became an opportunity to step into my future self. Should I buy this coffee? Okay, how would my abundant future self approach this? Right? Should I take on this client? All right, what would my confident future self do? Should I invest in this course? All right, How would my evolved future self decide? And the answers were often surprising, or most of the time, well, I'm not going to say most of the time, sometimes uncomfortable. My future self was more generous in some ways and had more boundaries for himself in others. My future self invested in growth without anxiety, obviously with discernment. My future self valued time differently than my past self did, right? He wasn't wasting time anymore on dumb shit. And my future self didn't stress about spending $7 on a coffee because he was good for it. My future self didn't take client that drained his energy for a paycheck. My future self invested in courses that expanded his mind instead of buying another pair of shoes to impress people he didn't even like, you know? And the crazy part was, oh, this is crazy, you gotta listen carefully. When I made decisions as my future self, I physically felt different. My posture changed, my breathing changed, even my voice changed slightly. It's like when you put on a really nice outfit and suddenly you are walking confidently, right? You're walking different. Same thing, but with your entire being. Because I wasn't pretending to be someone else. I was stepping into the identity that was already mine, however not yet fully embodied. It's like trying on clothes that are actually a great fit for you after wearing, loose, baggy clothes your whole life. And the more I made decisions as my future self, the more that self became my present reality. And it wasn't about waiting for external circumstances to change so I could feel abundant. No. It was about feeling abundant now and letting that feeling change my decisions, which then changed my circumstances. And this is a generous present moment. That space where you are not defined by your past, where you are fully present and you are making choices as the person that you are becoming, not the person you've been. But I want to be completely honest with you. This wasn't an overnight transformation. Obviously, there were days, okay? I'll admit it, there were days where I slipped back into old patterns. Times when stress or triggers would just get me right back into survival mode, having a pity party for myself, right? But the difference was that now I could recognize when that was happening because I developed what I call emotional awareness. And it's the ability to notice when I was slipping back into survival emotions. The physical sensations of survival emotions was my first clue, right? Tight chest, shallow breathing, clenched jaw, racing thoughts. That was my most obvious one. Racing thoughts, like, man, what's going on? Then, when these appeared, I already knew I was going back into old patterns. But instead of beating myself up, which I would normally do, or reinforce those survival emotions, I'd simply acknowledge it, right? Oh, damn. I'm in survival mode right now, and that's okay. I know how to shift. But sometimes I would let myself feel these survival mode emotions because that's what my body wants to experience or release. And it's like noticing you've accidentally walked into the wrong bathroom. Right? No need to panic, just calmly exit and go to the right one, right? Don't act like you've never done that. And let's go back to the basics. Regulate your nervous system. Fix that and get into a relaxed state so you can make elevated emotions emerge naturally. And then make decisions from your future self. That's it. Every time I went through this cycle, the pathway back to elevated states became clearer and easier to access. And I was strengthening a muscle, an emotional resilience muscle. And that's when I truly understand that meditation isn't about the time you spend with your eyes closed, but it's about how you live with your eyes open. That's a big one. Like, just living life became a meditation itself. So, how can you apply this in your life? And how can you apply this in your own practice? Well, write this down. Before you even begin to meditate or do a creation meditation, just spend, or even visualizing, mental rehearsing, or even affirmations. Spend 10 to 15 minutes regulating your nervous system. Deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, heart coherence, do the breath. If those survival emotions are like in your face, do the breath. Do whatever it takes to get out of survival mode. It's like preheating the oven. You gotta preheat the oven before you bake something. And pay attention to the physical symptoms in your body. Learn to recognize what genuine elevated states feel for you specifically. Now, these physical markers are your guideposts. And it's like learning what being tipsy feels like, so you know when to stop drinking before you text your ex. And don't try to force emotions. Don't try to manufacture emotions. But instead feel good in whatever authentic way emerges naturally, just because you are relaxed and present. That's it. It's like good sex. The more you try to force it, the less likely it's going to happen. And so throughout your day, practice pattern interrupts. Check in with yourself regularly. When you notice signs of stress or survival mode, pause, take 3 deep breaths, excuse yourself if you have to, and ask yourself, how would my future self approach this situation? Or how can I bring myself back into the present moment? That's it. And make decisions, big and small, from your future self rather than your past self. This is how you build the neural pathways of your new identity. It is like investing in who you want to be with every choice you make. And trust me, your future self has way better taste than your past self. No offense to your past self, okay? Be gentle with yourself when you slip back into old patterns. Simply acknowledge it. Oh, I went back to my old self again. Regulate your nervous system and return to elevated states without judgment. It's like when you fall off a bike, right? The point is to never fall, but it's to get back on without making a dramatic scene about it. That's it. And manifestation isn't about forcing the universe to give you what you want as well, but it's about becoming the person who naturally attracts and creates what you desire. It is not begging for the universe for a better life, but it's about becoming someone who naturally lives that better life. It's not about thinking your way to a new reality, but it's about feeling your way there. Not from your head, but from your heart. Your head is like Google Maps giving you directions, but your heart is the actual car that gets you there. And when you make this shift, when you stop trying to manifest from survival mode, when you allow authentic emotions to naturally emerge, when you make decisions from your future self, everything changes rapidly. Not because the universe suddenly starts listening to you or favors you, it's always favoring you, but because you finally, listen carefully, because you finally start listening to yourself, your whole self, body, mind, heart, and soul. Look, I'm not saying this is easy. If it were, everyone would be walking around driving Ferraris, having the perfect abs, you know what I mean? But it is simple, and that's the beauty of it. It's not about adding more complexity to your practice. It is about stripping away everything that's not essential and focusing on what actually works. And I spent 3 years, probably more than that, overcomplicating this process, thinking that I needed more techniques, do more meditations, more information. But what I really needed was less. Less stress, less forcing, less thinking, more feeling, more being, more trusting. And that's the invitation that I'm going to extend to you today. Stop trying so hard. Stop making manifestation another thing to your to-do list, right? Start trusting the wisdom of your body, the intelligence of your heart, the power of authentic emotion. And if this resonated with you, and you are someone who's done all the work, read all the books, attended masterminds, maybe even hired coaches, but you still feel stuck hitting that invisible ceiling, here's what I would need you to know. The real shift doesn't come from trying harder, but it comes from upgrading the identity and the nervous system that runs the show. Because that's what's changed everything for me and my clients like Tucker, Tanya, and Zarina. And if you want to see exactly how we broke down their old patterns for good and how you can map out your own breakthrough, then click on the link in the description. It'll take you straight to the details about my private mentorship, and you'll actually learn the process of, or how the process works and why it's different from everything else out there. So if you're ready to stop circling the same problems and step into a new level, click the link below and let's see if it's a good fit. And if it is, then let's talk. And let me know in the comments, what's one decision you can make today as your future self rather than your past self? And I've been reading every single comment, so I'd love to hear from you. All right, you've got the recipe. But there is this one ingredient that is so obvious, most people walk right past it. And I spent years looking for this secret, this advanced manifestation mystical technique. Reading every book, took every course, looking for that one piece I thought that would unlock everything. Meanwhile, the most powerful tool was sitting right there. It's like looking everywhere for your phone while you're talking on your phone. So this next thing is so simple that your ego is going to hate it. Your brain is going to be like, that's it? That is too easy. Where's the complexity? Where's the suffering? Where's the struggle, the hard work? But this is what separates people who manifest consistently from people who have vision board graveyards. You know that feeling when you are trying to manifest, but your mind keeps jumping to, how is this going to happen? When is it going to happen? And why is it not happening yet? One minute you may be visualizing abundance, and then next you are spiraling about your rent. Well, it's because your focus is scattered across maybe 17 different desires, and that is why maybe nothing is materializing. But don't worry, I lived this mental chaos for years. I was broke as hell, in 6 figures worth of debt, and I was watching all of these YouTubers just telling me, just focus. And so I'm sitting there in meditation thinking, focus on what exactly? But then I discovered the secret to focusing, and that is when everything shifted. But let me guess. I want to guess what you've been doing. You've been sitting there like a monk during meditation, trying to meditate. And then your brain goes, all right, let's focus on money. Oh, wait, did I pay that bill? Speaking of bills, why is everything so expensive right now? Maybe I should get a second job. Wait, what was I focusing on again? If that is your mental chatter, then sorry to tell you, but that is not focus. That is mental masturbation with background music. But here's what nobody tells you about manifestation. Oh, by the way, before we begin, if you would like to remove the complexity of manifestation and make manifestation automatic and easy, then book an alignment session with me. All you have to do is follow the link in the description. Now, I want to make sure you're taking notes because I'm about to break down something that 95% of people will never understand. So, what you see on YouTube, and they will never tell you this. I know why they won't tell you this, because the manifestation industry is a business that is reliant on keeping us confused. They want us to think that it's complicated, so that we keep buying courses, get into their coaching, but focus. It's not what you think it is. It's not about concentration. It's not even about sitting cross-legged pretending that you're enlightened. Focus is the centralization of energy. And energy is what creates reality. Right? Dr. Joe says where your attention goes, energy flows. And so when you understand this, like really understand this, you will never need another manifestation technique or course ever again. So, everything that exists physically first must exist mentally and spiritually. So, your current reality, maybe it's a broke bank account, maybe you're in a toxic relationship, maybe you're in a job you hate. All of that existed in your mind first before it materialized. The problem is that we've been unconsciously focusing on what we don't want. Now, most people are professional problem focusers, okay? I can tell you exactly how much debt I have down to the cent. But when you ask them about their desired reality, they go blank. They don't know. Oh, I don't want this. I don't want to be in debt, right? That's like going to a restaurant and telling the waiter everything you don't want to eat instead of what you want. No, I don't want the fish. I don't want the chicken. I don't want the beef. So listen carefully. There are 3 levels of focus, and 98% of people are stuck on level 1, wondering why their life is falling apart. So level 1 is focusing on problems, right? And I would call this survival consciousness, like what Dr. Joe says. And this is where most people live. They focus so intensely on what's wrong that they become magnets for more problems. It's like having a PhD in finding things to worry about, right? I'm sure you know these people. They wake up, immediately check their phone, check their bank account, see how broke they are, and then they scroll through Instagram so they can compare themselves to their friends who are living amazing lives that they wish they had. And then they call their friends to complain about the same problems they complained about yesterday or even last week. Oh, great. Guess what? I'm still poor. Oh, great. The world is still ending. Great. Mom still thinks I should have been a doctor. She probably thinks so. She thinks I'm a failure still. But when we focus on problems, we are operating in survival consciousness, which is the lowest level of awareness. We are thinking like an animal instead of thinking like the universe itself. And yes, we need to stop thinking like humans and start thinking like the universe if you wish to create your reality. So that is level 1. Level 2 is focusing on solutions, okay? It's still trapped, but this is better. But it's still a trap. Because when you focus on solutions, you're still operating from the energy that there still is a problem that exists in your life. You're like a firefighter who's really good at putting out fires, but never questions why everything keeps catching fire. And so like business owners, right? Solution-focused people are always busy. They have got systems for their systems. Color-coded calendars, meditation apps, morning routines. But they are still not happy because they are trying to solve their way into a different reality instead of just being or choosing or deciding to be in a different reality. I have to wake up at 4:30 a.m., do 47 minutes of meditation. I need to drink my coffee with butter in it, and the beans were blessed by Tibetan monks. And I need to journal for exactly 23 minutes about what I'm grateful for. I did that. And meanwhile, I was still miserable. I had just a really organized, I call it organized misery, right? I had a spreadsheet for my depression, right? But I still felt miserable inside, but at least I was consistent in my misery. Okay, that's level 2. Now, level 3 is focused on desired reality. Focus on what you want, which is God consciousness. So level 3 is where it gets weird. But this is where the real game is played. Because instead of focusing on what's wrong or how to fix it, you just focus on your desired reality as if it already exists. Not as a future goal, but focusing on your desired reality like it has already happened, that you are living in it. Already did happen, okay? Now your logical mind is screaming, but that's not true. You can't just pretend you're rich when your bank account says otherwise. And look, your logical mind is partially right. You can't pretend, but you can be it vibrationally before you see it physically. Which sounds insane, but think about it. Think about this very carefully. Every successful person, right, whether you've seen him on TV or read about him, is delusional in the best way possible. They believe shit that hasn't happened yet with the confidence of someone who is already living that life. Yeah, I'm gonna be a millionaire. Dude, you work at Subway. Okay, yeah, for now, but in my mind, I'm already counting millions. I'm just temporarily experiencing a cash flow situation in this dimension. But here's the thing that really messed with me. And Dr. Joe says your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what you're intensely focused on, or what is mentally rehearsed or vividly imagined, right? That's why we can watch a horror movie and in your heart, we've all felt it watching a horror movie, it starts racing, even though you know it's fake, right? But your brain is like, I don't know what's happening, but dude, stop being chased by a clown with a knife right now, right? Are we running right now? Okay, we are running right now. That's how sophisticated we are. But listen carefully, because you can only have what you already have internally. If you don't have it vibrationally, you can't have it physically. The physical plane is just frozen consciousness, frozen imagination. Okay? Your world is frozen imagination. When you focus on your desired reality with the same intensity you use to focus on your problems, oh my God, you alter your frequency and your frequency becomes reality. So, enough of that. How do you do it? How do you actually do it? I want to give you a 3-step formula that my clients pay me for as well. So please write this down. And it is inspired by Dr. Joe. Step 1 is literally a clear intention, right? What do you want? You need to be clear on what you want, right? You want $1 million? Okay, you're getting towards $1 million. You need to think from the fourth dimension. In the third dimension, your desired reality hasn't happened yet. In the fourth dimension, it already exists, because that is the dimension of timelessness. Now, most people don't even have an idea of what they actually want, right? Remember that restaurant analogy that I gave? You know what you don't want, but you don't know what you do want. It's like when the Uber asks, where are you going? They reply with, somewhere better than here. So your intention needs to be specific enough that the universe knows what frequency to match you with. For example, instead of saying, I want more money, try, I consistently earn $20,000 per month through work that fulfills me or that I love. Instead of just, I want love, try, I'm in a relationship with someone who sees me and appreciates me for who I truly am. Step 1, clear intention. Step 2, elevated emotion. This is the secret. But this is where most people mess up, because they think about what they want with the same emotional energy that they use to think about their grocery list, right? Emotionless. No energy behind it. No wonder nothing is changing. Emotion is energy in motion. Emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. Your heart has an electromagnetic field of 60 to 100 times larger than our brains. So when you feel what feels like to already have what you want, you're broadcasting that frequency in the quantum field. Okay? This is not about faking it, but this is about accessing the emotional frequency of your desired reality. When you truly feel abundant, you are making different decisions as that abundant person. Okay? When you feel loved, you show up differently. When you feel successful, you take different actions. Okay? Step 2 is emotion. Step 3 is sustained attention. Now, this is the hardest part. This is where most people fail, because your environment is constantly trying to pull you back into old patterns. Your friends want to complain about money. The news wants you to be in a fearful state. And your own mind wants to remind you of every times that you failed. And so sustained attention means you have to keep coming back to your desired reality, no matter what. No matter what is happening in your life around you, you have to keep coming back to your desired reality. Okay? You have to just keep broadcasting your light and let them come to you. And so, let's talk about what this actually destroys your reality, or focus killers, right? One is checking for results. And I used to do this a lot. It's like, it's the same as planting a seed and then digging it up every day, like, are you growing yet? Is it growing yet? How about now? Like, dude, come on, you just planted it yesterday. But, right? You have to nurture its growth. But when you keep digging it up, or you keep asking, when is it going to happen? How is it going to happen? You're digging it up. It's not working. And I see this all the time with people who do this with money all the time. They start manifesting abundance, and then they check their bank account like 47 times a day. I did that a lot. It was like refreshing Instagram, waiting for their extra post. That's what it is like to the universe. You're basically telling the universe, I don't believe that this is working. I don't even believe this is possible. So please prove me wrong. Right? And the universe is like, okay, your wish is my command. That is focus killer number 1. Focus killer number 2 is focusing on the how, right? Our job is to focus on what we want. That's it. Not figure out how it's going to happen or micromanage the universe. The universe is like an Uber driver, right? Just put in the destination and just shut up. Okay? No, universe, turn left here. No, wait, maybe go right. Actually, it's better to take the highway. Oh, actually, there's traffic there. Can you make sure we hit every green light? The universe has access to infinite possibilities. Possibilities that our logical mind hasn't even considered yet. That is why it comes from the unknown. Our logical mind is like dial-up internet trying to download a 4K movie. It's going to take forever, and you'll probably crash halfway through. Okay, that is number 2. Focus killer number 3 is emotional reactions to current circumstances. This is the big one. Something happens that contradicts your desired reality, and you lose focus faster than a goldfish loses attention. Let's say you're focusing on abundance, and then you get a bill, and it's just a $50 bill, right? But instead of staying calm, you panic. You panic and you make a fuss out of $50. Like, oh shit, I'm broke. The universe lied to me. Manifestation doesn't work. I'm gonna die poor and alone, right? We overreact to a $50 bill. Is that what an abundant person would do? I don't know. But that bill is a symbol, an echo of your past focus. Okay? But that makes no sense because that's exactly what we do in our lives. So we got to be masters at emotional regulation, masters at staying intensely focused in our attention towards our desired reality. Told you, focus is the only manifestation tool you'll ever need. Everything else, the vision boards, even meditation itself, affirmations, is just a distraction. However, meditation is a good way to practice your focus. So you don't need more techniques. You just need to master your focus. Your focus is your frequency. It is your currency. It is much more. I highly regard it more than time. Master your focus, master your reality. It is that simple and it is that difficult. But the difference between successful people and everyone else isn't just talent. It isn't luck. It's not even hard work. It's just focus. Because people focus, the people who manifest automatically focus on what they want with the same intensity that broke people focus on what they don't want. Like broke people, I can't afford this. I can't afford that. Money is evil. Rich people are assholes. Whereas rich people is, how can I create value? How can I solve problems for other people? How can I make this work? See the difference? The thing is, your current reality is just your past focus made manifest. Remember I said that 3D reality is just frozen imagination, frozen consciousness. And so everything you are experiencing right now is the result of what you were focusing on months or years ago. Which means your future reality is being created by what you are focusing on right now. Right fucking now. So what are you focusing on? Your problems? Your limitations? Your ex that won't text you back? Ooh. Maybe if I really focus on how much I miss her, how much I miss them, they're gonna come back. I'm so sorry, that is not manifestation, that is just emotional terrorism. And I'm not saying that this stuff is magic. I'm saying your brain is way more powerful than you think. And most of us are using it like a calculator when it is actually a supercomputer. But listen carefully. Stop focusing on what you don't want and start focusing on what you do want. It's that simple. But focus on it like it's already real, not some distant fantasy, right? Don't be like, I hope I'll be successful someday. Be like, I'm successful right now. I am deciding to be successful right now, and I'm collecting the evidence of that. Okay? No matter how small the win. And if that doesn't work, at least you'll be delusional with confidence instead of being realistic with depression. And honestly, confident delusion is way more fun at parties. Now stop watching YouTube videos about manifestation and go focus on what you actually want. Because your desired reality is waiting for you to claim it. It wants to be expressed through you. And if that doesn't work, you can come back here, comment on my page. But if it does work, you owe me a drink. And not some of the cheap stuff. I'm talking about top shelf manifestation celebration drinks. Okay? If you want to go deeper in this work, my friend, then book an alignment session with me and we'll run through the complete system that I use to help people shift their identity and transform their reality at the neurological level. Because it's not just about focus, it's about rewiring your mind and body and soul to make it inevitable for you. So if you're serious about transforming your life, please click on the link in the description to book a free session with me. But whether you work with me or not, remember this. Your focus is your power. So use it wisely. Use it consistently. And I promise you, you'll watch your reality transform before your eyes. So now you know, focus is basically your superpower. But knowing Superman can fly and actually getting off the ground, two completely different things. And I thought I had Joe's formula down pat. I really did. Until I realized I was making more mistakes. 6 mistakes actually. 6. I was literally doing everything wrong while feeling very enlightened about it. It's like being confident like that you're a great driver while going down the wrong way in a one-way street. And these mistakes are so common. If they made a Netflix series about it, it would be called How to Accidentally Repel Everything You Want. A masterclass in spiritual self-sabotage. So, let me save you from your own highlight reel of manifestation fails. I followed Joe Dispenza's manifestation formula perfectly for about 3 years and got absolutely nothing. Well, small wins, but nothing major, until I realized I was making some critical mistakes that hopefully that you are not making as well. And I had memorized it all. Clear intention plus elevated emotion equals manifestation. I was also doing mental rehearsals, I was generating gratitude, and I could even explain brain and heart coherence and neuroplasticity. But my bank account still broke. My relationships were a mess, and my nervous system was still running on stress hormones 24/7, well, except when I slept. However, the only thing that changed was my ability to sound really smart at dinner parties. Then I discovered something that completely shattered my entire understanding of this work entirely. And I was skipping the most important steps that actually make everything else actually work. Now, the thing is, for me, it was hiding in plain sight in everything Joe teaches. But somehow I just missed it for 3 years. I don't know why I didn't catch it. I don't know why I didn't catch it earlier. See, I was treating manifestation or the formula like a vending machine. Okay, let me put my intention in and add some good vibes, press the button, and wait for my order to arrive. But I was completely ignoring the fact that my nervous system was still in survival mode the entire time. Okay? My nervous system was in survival mode the entire time. That is like trying to plant flowers while your garden is on fire. You know what I mean? The seeds are great, okay? You got good intentions, but the soil is good, but the environment is just completely wrong for growth. So today I'm going to reveal the 6 critical steps or mistakes that most people skip, and why trying to manifest while stressed out is going to guarantee failure. And so I want to share the correct sequence that actually works, including the heart-brain coherence piece that I ignored for about 3 years because it sounds way too simple. Okay? So I've got my notes here and I'm ready to take you on a journey. Because Joe's formula, it works perfectly. But only if you are actually doing all of Joe's formula. Not just the fun manifestation parts like I was. So let's talk about the first mistake. The first mistake, and this one is the one that sabotages everything else, is I was trying to manifest abundance while my nervous system was stuck in survival mode, fight or flight. So I am sitting there in meditation, 4 a.m. I'm trying to feel gratitude for my millions of dollars. You know what I'm talking about? While my cortisol levels are through the roof. My doctor's calling me, telling me that my blood pressure is up. No, I'm just joking. It's through the roof because I got a credit card bill the night before. And I'm literally trying to create from a state of stress. Okay? That is like trying to have a romantic dinner while the fire alarm is going off. Like the intention is there, the candles are lit, but your nervous system is screaming, danger, danger, the whole time. So I completely missed that important concept for about 3 years. Because when you are in survival mode, our brains are literally designed to focus on problems, threats. It actually is designed to focus on what's wrong in our lives. And so the stress hormones are telling our bodies that, dude, ma'am, this is not a time to create. This is a time to survive. This is a time to fight, run, and hide. So there I am, trying to mentally rehearse abundance while my body is flooded with the same chemicals that kept cavemen alive when they were being chased by a predator, tigers. You know what I'm talking about? Except my tiger was my 6 figures worth of debt. And it was persistent. And Joe constantly talks about this. He says you can't create a new future while living in the emotions of the past. But what he really means is you cannot create anything while your nervous system thinks that you are under attack or that you need to run, fight, or hide. So, the timing matters because when you are stressed, you are literally in a different brainwave state. Okay? We are in high beta brainwave, survival mode. But creation only happens in alpha, theta, delta, relaxed, coherent states. And so I was trying to access the wrong frequency entirely. Okay, that is the first mistake. Second mistake was how I was completely misunderstanding living in the end. Okay? I was performing the outcome instead of embodying the identity of someone who already has it. Okay? I was performing the outcome instead of embodying the identity of someone who already has it. I would sit in meditation and literally act out having money, like a full performance. Like in my meditation, I'm checking my bank account, my imaginary bank account, making imaginary purchases, having imaginary conversations about my imaginary success. Okay? I'd be in meditation like, oh, look at all this money in my account. Thank you, universe. I'm so grateful. And then I would open my eyes. Guess what I would do? I would check my actual bank account to see if it worked. Spoiler alert, it didn't. And so the thing that I was missing was there's a huge difference between acting like you have something and being the person who actually has it. This is the difference between, like an actor playing a rich person in a movie and an actual person who is rich and actually being rich. Okay? A person who actually has $100,000 in their bank account, they don't wake up every morning like, oh my God, thank you for my $100,000 in my bank account. They just have it. They just have it. It's not exciting. It's not emotional. It's just their reality. Okay? They have normalized that state of being. However, they make decisions from that place naturally. Okay, that is the important part there. They make decisions from that place naturally. And so when I finally got this, oh my God, everything changed. Everything changed. Instead of trying to feel abundant, I started being someone who naturally attracts and manages money well. Instead of trying to be confident, I embodied the identity of someone who is just confident. Okay? And that meant making a decision that I was already worthy and leave victimization, okay? That victim identity, I had to make a decision to not be that person anymore. That is what becoming is versus wanting. When you want something, you're operating from lack. But when you become the person who has it, you are operating from wholeness. Completely different frequency. The third mistake, and this one almost kept me stuck forever. I was living in what I call manifestation time instead of being in the present moment, timeless presence, right? I was constantly checking for results and I was shooting myself in my foot, right? I was sabotaging my own work because every meditation session, I was basically a stalker, right? Hey universe, it's me again. Just wondering about that abundance that we talked about. By the way, you left me on red yesterday. Are we still good? Hello? Please respond. You know what I mean? Oh my God. And I used to do that. I used to do that before. So that was me in high school though. Okay. But where was I? Oh, I just finished meditation and I would check my bank account or email, hoping for some miraculous opportunity. I look at my phone expecting like a life-changing text message. There was actually one time where I got a spam email and the subject line was like, congratulations. It turns out it was a Nigerian prince trying to scam me. But honestly, for a second, I was like, oh, the universe finally came through. Yes, let's go. But what I didn't understand was that the moment you start looking for signs, well, I was admitting to the universe that I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that it was already done. So I was operating from a future tense instead of a present tense. Okay? And so you have to live in the present moment because there only is the present moment. But I was living in manifestation time, constantly projecting into the future, checking for progress, measuring my results. And so when I finally stopped checking, when I stopped living in the future and started living in the now, that is when things started to shift. El rapido. Because in the present moment, you are not trying to get anywhere. Okay, you're not trying to get anywhere. You're just being. Okay, you're not trying to get anywhere. You're just being. You're in the moment. You're in the moment. So, the fourth mistake, and this is the one that Joe emphasizes constantly, but I kept ignoring it. I don't know why. I was completely skipping the heart-brain coherence step. Listen carefully, because it seemed too simple and boring. Okay, heart-brain coherence. I was like, coherent breathing? That's just breathing. I want the mystical stuff. I want the fun stuff. I want the access to the quantum field. I want to bend reality. You know what I mean? But I was skipping the most foundational step that makes everything else possible. Because here's what I didn't understand. Heart-brain coherence isn't just some warm-up exercise, but it is literally the prerequisite for accessing elevated states. Okay? I want to say that again. It is the prerequisite for accessing elevated states. Your heart has to be in sync with your brain before it can create anything. That is like trying to drive a car without starting the engine. Okay? You can sit there trying to turn the steering wheel all you want, but you're not going to go anywhere until you turn the key. And the key is heart-brain coherence. Okay? That is turning the key. And there was someone that left that actual analogy in the comments. So thank you for that. Forgot who you were. So, but when I started applying this properly, meaning taking 10 minutes before meditation, just putting on some music without Joe's voice to get into coherence, everything changed. Everything changed. My meditations were deeper. My visualizations were more vivid. But most importantly, I could actually access and sustain elevated emotions and elevated states. Because when your heart and brain are in coherence, we are literally creating the optimal environment for transformation internally. Okay? The optimal internal environment for transformation. That is perfect soil for conditions before planting seeds. If you skip this step, you are trying to grow flowers on concrete. Okay? Remember that one. The fifth mistake was thinking that meditation was enough. Okay? I had no integration practices to anchor these elevated states into my daily life. I was a part-time spiritual person, let's say that. I'd have these amazing meditations where I felt abundant, confident, connected to the universe. Then I'd open my eyes, check my phone, see a bill, and then I would be back into anxiety. Back to poor me, struggling to make money. That is like similar to going to the gym once a week and expecting to get ripped, right? The workout might be great for that one session, but without consistent practice throughout the week, I'm so sorry, but you're not going to see results. And I remember having this crazy meditation. I felt completely abundant and I was so relaxed and at peace. Then I went to Starbucks and they charged me extra for special milk. And I had like an existential crisis. Like in my mind, I was like, I thought I was enlightened. Why am I so stressed about 60 cents? You know what I mean? Is that really what an abundant person would do? Would they stress over 60 cents? What I learned was that transformation happens in the integration. Okay? How we can maintain that elevated state when life is just lifing, okay? When your boss is being difficult, when you get unexpected bills, when your partner leaves the dishes in the sink, whatever. This is living from your future instead of living from your past. However, it requires practice throughout the day, not just during meditation, okay? Meditation is actually the practice, but in the day-to-day life, that is where the real application happens. Because when you catch yourself slipping back into old patterns, you have to consciously choose your new self. So here's what changed everything for me. And it was discovering the correct sequence that Joe actually teaches, but I missed because I was too eager to be, give me all the abundance, the manifestation part. I wanted to skip straight to that. So there was a time that I just really wanted to give up. I was like ready to give up. And I always went back, and then I went back to Joe's basic teachings, and I realized I've been doing everything out of order. That is like trying to bake a cake while putting the frosting first or the cherry first. You know what I mean? Let me just put this cherry first on nothing because I didn't listen to the recipe. So write this down. I'm about to explain the sequence that actually works. Okay, here it is. Step 1, nervous system regulation before you even think about creating, manifesting. You have to get out of survival mode. This means dealing with your stress, your anxiety, your fight or flight response. Because we can't create from chaos. Simple as that. How did this look like for me? Well, for me, this meant taking 10 minutes before meditation. Truthfully, even till this day, sometimes it takes me 30 minutes just to breathe, relax, soften myself up, just to calm my nervous system. Sometimes it meant dealing with whatever was stressing me out before I sat down to meditate. But I want to ask you, are you dedicated enough to take 10 minutes or 30 minutes just to get yourself into coherence like I did? Because I want to assure you, I want to assure you that you are worth it. And this is a foundational and key step to everything. So that is step 1. Step 2 is heart-brain coherence. Only after your nervous system is regulated can you achieve true coherence. It actually is synchronized when you do both. However, this is where magic happens. When your heart and brain are in sync, you can access states that were impossible when you are stressed, when you are scattered. Okay? Step 3 is Joe's formula: clear intention, elevated emotion. Now, and only now, can we can effectively combine an intention with an elevated emotion. Because we're not fighting against ourselves. We're not fighting against stress hormones or incoherent brainwaves. Okay? Step 4, embodied mental rehearsal. Okay? This is where you become the person who has what you want. Not wanting or having it, but embodying the identity, not the outcome. Okay? Step 5 is sustaining the elevated state. This is the most important part. Maintaining this state throughout your day. This is where the real transformation happens. When I started following this sequence, everything shifted. I think within 6 weeks, I think in as little as 2 weeks, small synchronicities started showing up. But within 6 weeks, opportunities started showing up that I had never seen before. Never I could have imagined. And my relationship started to improve. My business started growing. But most importantly, I felt different all the time, not just during meditation. Yeah, at first you have to use your will to try to bring yourself back to that feeling of how it was in meditation, or choose consciously about how your future self would make decisions from. But it gets easier as you go along. So that is the sequence. But I want to break down exactly the correct sequence, and because it matters more than anything else. Okay, so before you even sit down to meditate, I want you to ask yourself, what is my nervous system doing right now? What's the state I'm in? If you are stressed, anxious, revved up like I was, you have to deal with that first. It's like trying to have a conversation while you're at a loud nightclub. You know what I mean? Gotta turn down the volume first. Turn down the volume. Now, sometimes that wasn't enough for me. Sometimes I had to take a cold shower. I had to do Joe's breath work, right? Sometimes I had to go for a walk, or I had to literally sit myself down until my body relaxed. However, don't rush this step, because I promise you, your future self is going to thank you. So once your nervous system is calm, your body feels safe to relax in the moment, spend 5 to 10 minutes getting into coherence. This isn't just breathing, it's coherent breathing, okay? 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, while you're focusing on your heart center. I actually like to put my hand on my heart and breathe through it. That's it. Sounds weird, but it works. You'll know you're in coherence when you feel this sense of ease and a flow in your body. Okay? Now, after that, you can do the Joe formula, right? But instead of trying to generate elevated emotions, you're accessing them from a coherent state. Okay? You're not generating elevated emotions. You are accessing them from a coherent state. Big difference. Big difference. And this is where I messed up. Okay, don't visualize having what you want. Embody the person who naturally has it. Feel how that person moves through the world, right? How do they walk? Is their chest out? Are they walking confidently? How do they make decisions? How do they respond to challenges? This is where transformation actually happens. Every time you catch yourself slipping back to old patterns, or that old self just wants to get over here, you know what I mean? Breathe, pause, breathe, relax, and consciously choose your new self. Whew. This is real meditation. Moment to moment awareness and choice. Every decision. Do it from a place of your desired self or embodied self. When I get a bill now, instead of immediately going into anxious Kevin, right? Pause, breathe, respond from a calm state. New Kevin. It's not about the bill, but it's about who I'm being in relationship to the bill. And here's the thing. The real transformation doesn't happen during meditation. And I had to learn this the hard way. It happens at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday when your boss is being a dick. And you choose to respond from an elevated state, a calm, peaceful, relaxed state, instead of your stressed out self. It happens when you are stuck in traffic, and instead of wanting to road rage, you use it as an opportunity to practice coherence. It happens when you check your bank account. Instead of panic, you maintain the relaxed state regardless of what number is showing in front of you. This is why I nearly gave up. I thought it was about the meditation. But the meditation is just practice for real life. That is like trying to learn to play the piano. Like, the lessons are important, but the real skill comes from playing songs when nobody's actually watching or performing on a stage. I remember when I've successfully maintained my elevated state during a crisis or an obstacle or a challenge. I remember my car broke down and it was on the highway, okay? Everyone's just speeding through. And instead of, having a classic old Kevin moment, having a meltdown, I just stayed calm. I called NRMA. NRMA is like a roadside assistant. I don't know what you guys have it in your country. I made a couple of phone calls to people I loved, and I handled it like an adult, okay? Instead of just freaking out. That's when I knew the work was actually working. Not because I manifested a perfect life with no problems, no. But because I could be my elevated self, even when life was being life, okay? That is integration. That is mastery. And Joe talks about this when he says, can you be greater than your environment? And most people think that means manifesting a better environment, but it actually means being your best self regardless of your environment. Now, come on, let's get nerdy for a sec, okay? I want to explain why this sequence is so important, because understanding the science just makes it easier to trust the process. So, when it comes to the nervous system, when we are in survival mode, what happens is your brain is literally in a different operating system. Because when we are running on stress hormones, then our brainwaves in stress hormones are in high beta brainwaves. And our heart is in a chaotic rhythm. Okay? However, when we achieve brain and heart coherence, everything changes. And so our brainwaves shift from high beta brainwaves into alpha and then to theta. And then our heart rhythm becomes coherent. And then we start producing different types of chemicals in our body. So now, you are now running on the latest operating system, or our natural operating system, let's say that. And the integration throughout the day, that's how you make the new neural pathways stronger than the old ones. Yeah, you're making them during meditation as well, but this is like hardwiring them in. You are using real life experiences to prune away old neural pathways and strengthen these new ones. Every single time you choose your new self over your old self, you are literally rewiring your neurology. It's like a gym for your consciousness, okay? So, here's what I want you to do. Stop trying to manifest from chaos, from stress, from survival mode. Start with your nervous system, please. Move to coherence. Then do the manifestation work. Follow the sequence and trust the process. And if this completely shifted how you understand Joe's work, I would love if you dropped a comment and let me know. What step have you been skipping, right? Let me know what step you've been skipping. Come on, be truthful to yourself. You owe it to yourself to be honest and authentic. Because I guarantee some of you are trying to build a house without laying the foundation first. Lay the foundation first. Okay, you've got the formula. You're not accidentally pushing everything away you want like a bug spray. Here's this emotional trap that almost turned me into a meditation zombie. And it was I was forcing gratitude like my life depended on it. Like, I'm so grateful. Everything is so amazing. Meanwhile, my life was actually falling apart and I'm sitting there pretending to be happy. Just be happy, keep being happy, don't worry about everything else. My nervous system was like, bro, who are you trying to fool here? And so this mistake is so sneaky. Because if you feel like you're doing everything right, you're being positive, you're grateful, but you're actually creating more internal resistance than a teenager being asked to clean their room. It is spiritual bypassing dressed up as personal growth. And this almost broke me. There was a period in my meditation practice where I would force myself to feel grateful and joyful every single day. And I thought I was mastering Joe Dispenza's work until my body completely shut down and I couldn't feel anything at all. And every morning, I remember I would sit there, forcing myself to feel gratitude, forcing myself to feel joy, pushing myself to feel these elevated emotional states. Because, I thought that was what doing the work meant. Feel abundant now. Feel grateful now. Come on, Joy. Come on. Where are you? And after a while, look, for a period of time it worked, but I was hitting those, I was actually hitting those elevated emotions. My meditations felt powerful and I was checking all the boxes, right? But a couple of months later, something weird started happening. My body began rejecting these forced emotions. And honestly, I started to feel numb. I would try to feel grateful and nothing. Just this hollow, empty feeling where joy used to be. And that is when, this is what I realized about elevated emotions during that time. And I wish someone actually told me this before I emotionally burned myself out. I don't know what it was. It's like something just happened where nothing was there. But forcing positive feelings is just spiritual bypassing in disguise. Okay, I was literally suppressing every authentic emotion because I had been thinking that I was being high vibe when I was literally creating some big manifestation blocks because of spiritual bypassing or emotional bypassing. But it finally clicked when I stopped trying to feel good and started allowing myself to feel real. And that is when everything changed and my manifestations actually started accelerating. So today I want to share exactly what went wrong during that time where I was trying to force my elevated emotions, and why forcing elevated emotions destroys your nervous system, and how to actually embrace emotional authenticity. Yes, even the negative stuff, those became key to effortless manifestation, embracing your negativity. But what I learned the hard way was that your shadow isn't your enemy, isn't the enemy of your light, but it's actually a fuel. And so, oh, by the way, if you would like to join a community of dedicated quantum creators who are there to encourage you and celebrate your wins, support you when you are in that transformation phase or experiencing a dark night of the soul, then come join the Quantum Creator community by following the link in the description. But it all started a couple of years ago, I think about 3 years ago, and my mornings would wake up, I would wash my face, go to the toilet, then straight into meditation. And I would literally force myself into what I thought was elevated emotions, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm so grateful for this beautiful life. I love my life. Everything is amazing. Meanwhile, my life was looking back at me like, bro, are you okay? Is everything all right? Because we aren't matching the same energy. And it was like being that friend who always posts on Instagram like living my best life, right? While they cry in the parking lot. Well, you know that friend, right? We all have that friend. Sometimes we are that friend. But Dr. Joe actually teaches that, and I completely missed this teaching of his. He talks about elevated emotions, but he's not talking about manufacturing fake positivity. He's never said that, right? He's talking about authentic states that arise naturally when we are aligned with our true self. And that difference is massive. It is like the difference between a genuine laugh, a real laugh, and that awkward laugh you do when your boss tells a bad joke, Ha, ha, ha. Good one, boss. Can I please have a raise? So, your boss might not know the difference, but your nervous system knows the difference, okay? Even if your mind doesn't. Even if your mind doesn't know, your nervous system, our body knows. And so I was essentially gaslighting my own emotions. Every time I would feel frustrated, anxious, doubtful, I would be like, no, grateful, you have to be grateful, right? You have to be grateful. That is not healing. And I wondered why nothing was changing. No wonder I was not healing. Because when you suppress your emotions, you're not transcending them. We are just pushing them deeper into the subconscious. We're disregarding them. We're creating resistance. And that's why I was creating even more resistance in my life. It's similar to holding a ball under the water or under a pool, okay? Eventually it's gonna, bounce back into the surface, explode back into the surface. And when it does, it's gonna hit your face. And that's exactly what happened to me. My body was like, nah, we're not doing this fake shit. Stop faking. Stop it. Like, it just had enough. It just had enough. And I remember one meditation, I was trying to access that grateful feeling of gratitude. And it was like reaching for a light switch that had been disconnected. Nothing. I couldn't feel anything. Just this weird hollow emptiness where emotions used to be. It's like, tune in to the frequency of gratitude. Like, okay, any minute now. And it was the strangest thing. I could intellectually understand that I had things to be grateful for, but I couldn't feel it. I'm sitting there like, come on. Emotions. Hello. We need to talk. Hello. You know what I mean? I know I'd been forcing them. I know I'd been forcing elevated emotions, but come on, please. Like, we're in the middle of a meditation. But what the hell was actually happening to me? Well, when you constantly suppress your authentic emotional responses, we are essentially training our nervous system to disconnect from our feeling centers. To disconnect from our feelings. Our brain is like, oh, we're not allowed to feel real emotions anymore? Okay, cool. Let's just shut down that whole department. That's what it's like. So please pay attention to this. It's like having an employee who keeps getting told that their work isn't good enough. So eventually, they just stop trying altogether. Oh, okay, my work sucks, so what the hell is the point? Right? And in case you missed that, the employee is your entire emotional system. And the irony is that in trying to force elevated emotions, I had created the exact opposite. Emotional numbness. I had become a spiritual robot, going through the motions, but feeling nothing authentic. And the worst part was my manifestations, nothing was happening. It stalled. But here's what I didn't understand back then. The universe doesn't respond to fake emotions. It responds to authentic frequency. And my frequency, it was just basically elevator music at that point. Like nodding, like, you know what I mean? Lifeless. Now listen carefully. The goal isn't to feel good all the time. The goal is to feel real all the time. And I hope that smacked you in the face. I hope it did. Because elevated emotions aren't something we manufacture. They are something that we allow. They arise naturally when we are in alignment with our authentic self. Not when we are performing some emotional theater or something like that. And I know Dr. Joe talks about this concept of authenticity, the emotional authenticity. The idea that your emotions, even the uncomfortable ones, they are just information. They are our internal guidance system trying to tell us something important. And so sometimes we need to listen to that. Well, we need to listen to that. And so when I was forcing gratitude while feeling frustrated about my financial situation, my debt, I was essentially telling my internal guidance system, shut up. I don't want to hear it. You're frustrated right now? You're anxious? Shut up. I don't want to feel that. But that frustration, that was trying to tell me something. Like, dude, maybe you need to take different actions. Something's not working here. Maybe you need to address some limiting beliefs. Maybe it's a behavior needed change, right? Or simply need to acknowledge that it's okay to feel frustrated sometimes, right? It's like your emotions are trying to have an important conversation with you and you keep interrupting them like, okay, anyway, look, let's talk about how grateful we are. And your emotions are sitting there like, bro, can I finish what I'm trying to say here? Can I finish my sentence? And so when we suppress our emotions, we are not just suppressing the negative ones. You are dampening your entire emotional range. It's like turning down the volume on your emotional stereo system. You know what I mean? Not just the elevated emotions, but every emotion. And so we don't just lose access to our anger, our sadness. You also lose access to authentic joy and love too. And that's why so many people, well, from what I have observed in the spiritual community, they seem flat. They are so afraid of feeling anything negative that they accidentally numb themselves to everything. And that's not a judgment because that's what I experienced. And so I decided to try something crazy. I just started to allow myself to feel whatever came without immediately, don't feel that, or override it with a positive, a forced positivity. You know what I mean? Fake positivity. No, we're not allowed to feel that. We need to feel gratitude. Like revolutionary concept, right? Like feel your feelings. Like who would have thought? But the first time I did this, it's terrifying. Let me tell you that. I didn't even do a Joe meditation. I just sat there with music on, and instead of trying to force gratitude, I just sat there. I sat with whatever it was. If there was a lot of anxiety about money, some anger about the past betrayal, a decision that I made, whether it was deep sadness, there was a lot of deep sadness within me. Maybe feeling disconnected from myself. I just let it happen. For about 10 minutes, I just let myself feel it without trying to change it. You want to know what happened? These emotions started to move. It's like they weren't stuck anymore because I wasn't trying to suppress them with fake positivity. And Joe talks about this. He calls it emotion, like alchemy, right? I call it emotional alchemy. It's the ability to transform those lower frequencies, those survival emotions, and turn them into elevated states, or get them to move, not by suppressing them, but by fully feeling them and allowing them to complete their cycle. It's like emotional digestion. We can't digest food by pretending we're not hungry. You actually have to eat. You have to chew the food, let your body process it. Guess what? Same with our emotions. And so after I allowed myself to feel that anxiety, that frustration, that anger, something beautiful happened. Genuine gratitude started to arise. Not because I was forcing it, but because I had created space for it by honoring these other emotions first. It was similar to like cleaning a clogged drain, you know what I mean? Once you remove the blockages of a clogged drain, or aka suppressed emotions, then the natural flow of elevated emotions can return, or every single emotion can return. And I remember that the first time I felt authentic joy after this numbness. I was at a park and I saw someone walking their dog, and that dog did this weird thing. It was so ridiculous that it tried to catch its own tail and it fell over. I just started laughing. And I was really laughing. And I realized, my God, I haven't felt genuine joy in months. It was like being able to, taste food again after being sick and your taste bud just stopped working. So, once I understand this principle, I developed what I call the authentic elevation process. And it incorporates shadow integration, shadow work into this piece that most people skip. So, listen carefully and write this down. Step 1 is what I call emotional check-in. So before trying to access any elevated emotions, like before meditation, just do a full body scan and ask, okay, what's actually happening right now? What is my state of being? Not what I think I should be, not what I want to be, but what's actually present right now. Okay? Step 1. Step 2 is honor and allow. Whatever emotions come up, anxiety, frustration, sadness, anger, just give them space. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to change them. Don't try to force positivity into them. Like, acknowledge them. Like, hey, anxiety, I see you. What are you trying to tell me? It's similar to being a good host to a guest that you don't want. You don't have to like them, but you can still be polite, right? Oh, anxiety, you're here again, huh? Can I get you some tea? No? Okay, well, make yourself comfortable, but you're not staying long, okay? That's step 2. Step 3 is emotional alchemy. This is where the whole work really shines, right? Once you have honored or accepted those lower emotional frequency emotions, you can now authentically access elevated emotions. But now they are real, not forced. You're not performing them. And the difference, oh my God, when you force elevated emotions, they feel hollow. You know what I mean? There's a part of you that's like, dude, this is wrong. They feel temporary. But when you allow them to arise naturally, after honoring your shadow, oh my God, they feel solid. They feel sustainable. And step 4 is integration. Now, listen very carefully, because this step is very important. We can't just have a beautiful meditation and then go back to suppressing our emotions the rest of the day. We have to integrate this emotional authenticity into our daily life. So now, when I'm driving, instead of someone cutting me off in traffic and immediately trying to force a positive emotion, oh, thank you, person that just cut me off, for teaching me patience. You know what I mean? Even just saying it in a fake voice, it's fake. Now I allow myself to feel annoyed in that moment. Okay, my God, that guy just cut me off. That's okay. Then I can naturally shift into something more elevated without feeling fake, right? You just cut me off? All right, whatever, dude. You know what I mean? So try this and see what happens in your life. Because for me, the results of just this shift were immediate and profound. I tell you, within about 2 weeks of implementing this authentic approach, my manifestation started flowing again. But more importantly, this is the best part. I felt like me again. I felt like myself again. And so my emotions became this beautiful, dynamic range instead of this flat, forced positivity. I could feel genuine joy, authentic gratitude, like real love. But I could also feel appropriate anger, right? Healthy sadness, useful anxiety when I'm about to go into a coaching session or when I'm about to create a video, right? It's like going from being an emotional robot to being a jazz musician. Instead of playing the same forced happy song over and over again, you can improvise at that moment of what is actually called for. Like you could read the energy of the room, similar to that. And so, this ability to access the full range of human emotions while not being controlled by any of them, wow, you become the conductor of your emotional orchestra instead of being, dragged by one of the instruments by itself. And so, the manifestation piece is interesting too, because when my emotions became authentic, my manifestations became more aligned. Instead of trying to force abundance while feeling lack, struggle, scarcity, I could address the scarcity with and honor it, and then authentically access abundance. Because what I want you to understand is that your shadow emotions, what we call our, low frequency emotions, they aren't blocking our manifestations. Guess what's blocking them? Suppressing them is. And so when we try to bypass your shadow with forced light, toxic positivity, forced positivity, we create resistance and internal conflict. But when we integrate our shadow, it becomes fuel for authentic elevation. It is like trying to build a house on a foundation you're pretending doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Eventually it's going to collapse. But when you acknowledge and work with your foundation, even the cracked parts, you can build something solid and lasting. And so here's my challenge for you. Stop forcing elevated emotions and start honoring whatever is actually present. It's trying to tell you something. It's been trying to tell you for a while. Remember, your shadow is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Our negative emotions, they are not obstacles to manifestation. They are information that can guide us to authentic alignment. But please remember, the goal isn't to feel good all the time. The goal is to feel real all the time. Because when you are real, you are powerful. And when you are powerful, manifestation becomes effortless. And so, if you want to go deeper with this work or want to be around a supportive community, then come join the Quantum Creators community. We'll be waiting for you with open arms. But all you have to do is remember, you are not broken. You don't need fixing. And your shadow, these negative emotions, they are not something to be ashamed of. It's part of our power. So own it, integrate it, and watch your manifestations become more authentic and effortless than ever before. Wow. Now you know the difference between real emotions and performing them from an audience of one. But here's something that made me question everything. I have these incredible meditations, like mind-blowing meditations, profound meditations. Like I downloaded the Secrets of the Universe type of sessions. But then I would open my eyes, check Instagram, see someone living their best life in Bali or Vietnam, Thailand, and I would feel like shit. It was like having an amazing workout, then eating a full box of donuts in the parking lot. I was literally undoing my meditation work within minutes of finishing. Oh my God. Don't do this, guys. Don't do this. If your spiritual practice has the staying power of a Snapchat story, this next part is going to save your sanity. If you're wondering why your meditations feel powerful in the moment, but nothing actually changes in your life, I want to tell you it's not because you're doing something wrong, but maybe it's because you are unconsciously sabotaging yourself the moment you open your eyes, like I did. And I had to discover this the hard way after years of what I thought was growth, but was actually just spiritual bypassing. I was meditating for hours, like hours a day sometimes 4, doing all the techniques, following Dr. Joe's work religiously, but I was still broke, still anxious, and looking back, I was still stuck in the same patterns. And then I realized something that completely shifted everything. And I was doing this one thing immediately, right after meditation, and it was killing my results. And if you are someone who meditates, then you might be doing this exact same thing without even realizing it. And so today I want to show you how to actually identify these unconscious self-sabotaging patterns that may be blocking your transformation as well. And more importantly, I want to share my step-by-step method to actually work with your resistance instead of fighting against it. And come on, let's be real. I think at every stage of our life, we are going to experience resistance, even till now, right? Even advanced meditators experience resistance and challenges and obstacles because that's how we evolve, that's how we change. So our bodies is actually trying to protect us from change, okay? And once we understand this mechanism, then meditation becomes effortless. Change becomes easy. But I want to ask you something, right? Let me ask you something. Have you ever finished a meditation feeling like you just downloaded the secrets of the universe, only to check your phone and then you immediately feel like shit again? Right? I see you. Don't worry. I'm not judging. I literally used to meditate for an hour, specifically about abundance, and then I would immediately check Instagram, and then I would see everyone else's success and feel like a failure. Like instant comparison. What am I doing? That's kind of like going to the gym and you do like an intense workout, right? You're pumping, you worked hard at the gym, then you smash a Big Mac in the parking lot. Like, okay, it's still possible, but come on, you're kind of missing the point there. But it's like you're only half in, you know what I mean? You're like half in, you're not fully in. And so what I discovered that I was killing my results. And actually, Dr. Joe talks about this all the time, but nobody really gets it until it actually happens to them. And so I want to, make you aware and see if it's happening to you or prevent it from happening to you. So the moment you finish your meditation, your brain is in a heightened state of suggestibility, or even during meditation. So we've just spent 20 to 60 minutes rewiring our neural pathways, creating new connections, literally being a new person, right? Signaling the genes of that new person. And then your hand starts to move on its own. And then you automatically reach for your pocket and you pull out your phone, right? What is the first thing you see? Oh my God, it's your ex. And she's on vacation, right? With who? And then there's political arguments and there's so much more, right? And we just spent an hour building a beautiful sandcastle. And then we immediately let a kid destroy it, right? And then our subconscious mind goes, oh my God, are we back in this reality already? All right, cool. Let me just delete everything that we just installed. Crazy, right? We are so funny. And this is returning to our familiar past. But I call it meditation malpractice. It's just, what a waste of time. And I literally tracked this for 30 days. Every time I checked my phone, like at least 10 minutes after meditation. And now I feel worse than I started. Like every single damn time. Every single time. Now, before you think that I'm about to tell you to throw your phone out and live like a monk, just relax. I tried that. Lasted about 6 hours before I was Googling how to get my phone from out of the river. Okay? You don't have to throw your phone. And honestly, the solution isn't to get rid of technology because, the solution is to understand frequency interference. That's it. Interference frequencies. Now, let's get nerdy for a bit. Think of your meditation like tuning into a specific radio frequency, okay? Abundance FM. You want to tune into Abundance FM. So you spend the whole meditation getting clear reception on Abundance FM, right? You're in this radio station. Now you've tuned into it. You can hear every note. Every word is beautiful. It's abundant. But then the second you finish your meditation, you open your eyes. If you pull out your phone, you are now tuned back into Anxiety FM, Comparison FM, especially if you see something that triggers you, okay? Now, our nervous system can't literally, it can't tell the difference between what we just experienced in meditation, mentally rehearsed, visualized, maybe we had visions and downloads, whatever. And it can't tell the difference between what you're seeing on your phone. So we are still in that highly suggestible state. And so when we check our phone and we see someone with a car that we want and we're like, oh, I don't have that. Oh my God, I guess we're not worthy. You just programmed yourself because we're still in that suggestible state after meditation, remember? And that is why I am so obsessed, or even like Dr. Joe is so obsessed with the concept of becoming no body, no one, no thing, nowhere, no time. Because if you are still somebody with problems, immediately after meditation, you're basically telling your subconscious mind, jokes, just joking. I'm just joking with all that abundant stuff. You know what I mean? We just wasted an hour of our time just joking about that abundant stuff. Please don't do this. Please don't do this to yourself. And it just tells us how addicted we are to our phone, right? But honestly, I will never forget the day that this clicked for me. I just finished this amazing meditation, like body chills, tears of gratitude. I felt like I could manifest a unicorn if I wanted to. And then I think about like 30 minutes after, I would like check my bank account. I don't know why. It was just a habit. And apparently the universe hadn't got the memo about my new state of being of abundance consciousness, right? My bank account was still looking like a sad emoji. But instead of staying in that high frequency state that I had just literally spent an hour creating, I immediately spiraled into, why hasn't this worked yet? Oh my God, what am I doing wrong? Maybe I'm broken. This manifestation stuff is complete BS. Dr. Joe is a liar. You know what I mean? These spiritual gurus, these teachers on YouTube, they're all talking crap. And then I realized I wasn't giving my meditation time to integrate. Like after meditation, for real. I was like a chef who keeps the oven door open and like, is the cake baking yet? Like I'm just keeping the door open. Like, come on, dude, you're letting all the heat out. And so, don't do this. If this has inspired you, or if something has clicked to you, please. Because I want to share something that I developed, and write this down or write it on your phone. Because if you check your phone, or when you know your phone brings you back into your old self, you're going to need this. You're going to need this, okay? So step 1, right after meditation, don't touch your phone. Don't check email. Don't even talk to people if you can. Just sit there and let your brain integrate the update, okay? Sit there and breathe. Think of it as like your brain is finalizing the installations. Okay, when you like update something in your computer, it's installing and it says like finalizing. Okay, and you know how Netflix gets all pixelated when your internet is slow? Well, think of it as like that's your consciousness when you interrupt the integration process. Okay, step 1, just let it integrate. Let it integrate. Step 2, instead of jumping straight back into your old reality, like be aware of that. Be super aware of that. Okay, I'm plugging myself back into the material world now. I gotta be aware not to jump back into my old reality. Create a bridge. Create a bridge. Write down 3 things that you are grateful for that align with the frequency you just cultivated. Okay, not generic stuff but specific things that match your energy. So that's step 2. And step 3 is before you engage in any external input, ask yourself, does this match the frequency I just created, or will it put me back into old patterns? Okay, simple as that. If it's something that you can't avoid, just be like, okay, how would my the frequency that I just cultivated respond to this? Simple as that. But where it gets interesting, and I feel like this is something Dr. Joe doesn't talk about enough, is that when we experience resistance is not our enemy, but it's actually our body's security system just trying to keep us safe. And so our subconscious mind is like that friend who always brings up embarrassing moments or embarrassing things you did in high school. Remember that time that you did this in high school? It's that friend is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to keep you consistent with who it thinks you are, right? That friend that keeps mentioning all the embarrassing stuff in high school still sees you as that kid in high school. So when you start changing through meditation, your body literally creates resistance, physical resistance sometimes, anxiety, restlessness, sudden urges to check your phone, get up and do something. I want to tell you that's not weakness. That's your nervous system going, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't do successful. We don't do successful here, remember? We only do struggling but spiritual. Okay? That's all we do here. And you got to acknowledge this. You have to acknowledge this resistance instead of fighting it. And I would literally talk to my resistance. I literally talk to it now, like, oh, okay. Here's my old self. I see you. I see you. I just want to say thank you for trying to keep me safe, but come on. We're leaving that now. We're upgrading now. So you can either come along or you can get left behind, right? It sounds pretty crazy, but it works. And this is about becoming conscious, right? Becoming conscious of my unconscious patterns. And by disassociating myself with it, I'm disassociating those neurological pathways. I'm not identifying with it as well, right? That's you and that's not me, right? So once I started implementing this, everything changed rapidly. rapidly. Not overnight, but like very, very consistently. And my meditations went from feeling like entrainment to actual life-changing experiences. Okay? It wasn't just about, it wasn't just entrainment. I started to experience different experiences in material world. And so I started getting opportunities that aligned perfectly with what I had been mentally rehearsing, like those breadcrumbs that Dr. Joe talks about. So I would get like people, my email list would improve so much. I would get more calls booked, right? But the biggest change was I stopped feeling like I was fighting against myself all the time. That was so exhausting, mentally and physically, seriously. I finally felt like having my conscious and subconscious mind on the same team. Brain and heart coherence, super brain and heart coherence. It feels amazing. I honestly can't tell you guys how amazing it feels. And so I want this for you. I want to share how you can actually implement this today. So write this down. Tomorrow morning, right after your meditation, please don't touch any devices, right? Don't touch any devices. Write down 3 specific things you're going to be grateful for that match your meditation frequency. And so it could be, start collecting evidence of your new frequency. If it's like more money in your business, $20,000 months, just start collecting of, okay, someone booked a call with me today, right? I'm grateful that someone booked a call with me. I'm grateful that my content has reached more people, okay? Don't overcomplicate it. Your brain loves simple, consistent patterns. And you should too. I do. I don't want anything complicated. But if you're thinking, come on, Kev, I don't have 10 extra minutes. I barely have time to meditate as it is. Come on. Aren't we already spending way more time, way more than 10 minutes, just scrolling through bullshit that makes you feel worse? It's not about finding more time. It's about protecting the time that we've already invested in ourselves, in our frequency. And it just tells us that we treat our phones so much more than us, right? We revere it more. But come on, we are bigger than that. And just last week, I had a client who had been meditating for about 3 years with hardly to no results. Once we implemented this in 14 days, he landed a $15,000 contract that perfectly matched with what he was mentally rehearsing for his business. And it was creating an offer to create an EP for music in a week for artists. And so it was so aligned with him that it was his first time offering that service. And the first person that he pitched it to said yes. So the meditation didn't change. The visualization didn't change. The only thing that changed was how he protected and integrated that frequency he was creating in his waking state. Okay? It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. And if you have been meditating but not seeing the results you want, then look, this might be the missing piece. Because our meditation practice isn't broken. We just need to learn how to protect the frequency that we have just been creating. And if you want to go deeper into this work, then please book an alignment session with me where we can align your nervous system with your goals. Link is in the description. But whether you book an alignment session with me or work with me or not, then it's okay, because this information is more than enough for you to create from your desired reality as well. So now you know how to protect your meditation frequency from the chaos of modern life. But there's this deeper layer most people never touch, because it means looking at the stories we tell ourselves. And even with the perfect technique, if you are still married to your victim story, that you romance it, if you love telling it, if you're still using your past as a get out of success free card or a reason to not change, sorry to say, but you're going to keep creating the same reality. So this next piece is about breaking up with your trauma identity altogether. And yeah, it's going to be messy. Messier than a reality TV show. But it's also your ticket to freedom. So it's time to stop being loyal to your limitations. Your trauma is not your excuse anymore. And I know that sounds harsh, but I'm here to be real. And I'm here to free you from the prison that you've built around your past experiences and past traumas and hurts. But I'm not trying to minimize what happened to you. Trauma is real. Pain is real. But suffering, that's optional. But using your trauma as a permanent, this is why I can't change excuse for why you can't create the life that you want, That is where we need to have a real conversation. And I see it all the time. I can't be successful because of my childhood. I can't trust other people because of what my ex did. I can't make money because my family was poor, had no opportunities, and it's just hard. All the people in my family who tried to start a business, they all failed. Like, come on, at what point do you stop being a victim of your past and start being the creator of your future? And so, by the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how trauma gets stored in your nervous system while your brain keeps you stuck in survival mode, and how to actually literally rewire your neural networks to break free from the past once and for all. And make sure you're taking notes, because I'm about to explain the neuroscience behind why you're addicted to your trauma story and how to actually break free and finally break free from that addiction. You ready? Oh, and if you are someone who actually wants to apply this knowledge and stuff instead of actually consuming more content, then please book an alignment session with me. People who typically become my clients typically see a 2 to 5x in their revenue in as little as 8 weeks without changing anything to their marketing, to their business strategy. Link is in the description. Okay? Now, let's talk about it. Trauma. Let me explain what trauma actually does to your brain. Okay? When you experience trauma, your nervous system gets stuck in what is called a dysregulated state. And your brain puts itself in a state of survival mode. Okay? Your brain literally rewires itself for survival mode. Now, in short instances or short trauma responses, that's fine. But if you are consistently thinking about the trauma all the time, then you can see why your brain is always in survival mode. Okay? This is the brain, and trauma creates implicit memories. Memories stored in your body and nervous system without conscious awareness at all. And so your body remembers the threat even when your mind has finally moved on. Okay? Your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes hypervigilant. It is always scanning for danger, even when you're safe. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain, the part responsible for rational thinking and future planning, CEO of the brain, it goes offline. It shuts off. Okay? You cannot plan, you cannot create a future, you cannot think properly if you're in a survival state. So what happens? Well, you are walking around with a smoke detector that thinks that everything is on fire. And so your nervous system is like that friend who had one bad experience at a restaurant and now thinks that all food is poisoned. You know what I'm talking about, right? That's what it's like. We are so sophisticated. Don't you agree? We are so sophisticated. Okay. Oh, that is supposed to say cycle. That is a cycle. Here's what most people don't understand. Your nervous system becomes addicted to familiar emotional states, even if they're painful. Okay? Your body literally craves the chemicals of trauma because it's what it knows. You have probably experienced more emotional states related to trauma than elevated states. Okay? So when you experience trauma repeatedly, your body starts producing stress hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, as its normal state. So your body is always living in a stressful state. Your cells literally become addicted to these chemicals. This is simple biology. Simple biology. And I know you've felt it. When you get angry, you turn red. You have that rage in you. You have like a bit of adrenaline. You have extra power. That is the chemicals being produced. So, when life gets peaceful, your nervous system actually feels uncomfortable. It's saying, where is my daily dose of drama? Where's my stress fix? Your body starts creating problems to get you back into that familiar chemical state. And we are drug addicts. We are drug addicts. But instead of being addicted to cocaine or marijuana, we are addicted to chaos and drama. And our body literally craves these chemicals because that's what feels normal. We have memorized feeling stressful states than elevated states. Think about your life right now. Have you experienced or felt more stressful states than elevated states? It is like being so used to sleeping on a broken mattress that a comfortable bed, it feels wrong. You know what I mean? Your nervous system is like this peace and happiness. This feels so suspicious. It's suspicious. Let me create some drama so it feels normal again. How funny are we? How funny are we? And by doing this, we now have identified ourselves as a victim. Victim identity. And here's where it gets tricky. Trauma has now become your identity. It can become your identity. You start defining yourself by what happened to you instead of who you're becoming. Congratulations, you have now become professionally traumatized. And our ego mind loves trauma. It loves stories because you can now explain why you are not where you want to be. Because it is so much easier to say, I can't because of this what happened, then I won't because I'm scared. That is vulnerable, that is raw, and that is true. And trauma now becomes your origin story. But instead of it being like Batman, who used his trauma to become a superhero, you are using your trauma story to stay stuck in a cave, just feeling sorry for yourself, having a pity party. I used to do that every single night. That's how I knew my trauma was now my identity. Okay? Don't do that to you. You deserve better. These are wave patterns. Okay? Wave patterns. Now, the quantum field doesn't give a shit about your trauma. It only responds to your current state of being. Your current frequencies. They're wave patterns, aka frequencies. Your current emotional signature. And don't believe these people who say emotions, you don't need emotions to create your reality. How do you feel on a day-to-day basis? If you can master your emotions, you can master reality. And the quantum field is like the internet, okay? If you're searching for struggle content, it's going to continue, or inputting victim energy, it's going to give you victim experiences, struggle experiences. That is the quantum field. It respects everyone by their free will of what their frequency is emitting. And so your past only has power over your future if you keep energizing it with your attention combined with emotion. Every time you tell your trauma story with the same emotional energy, listen carefully, okay? Get some tissues out. You are literally recreating the trauma in your present moment. Whew. Be careful. Be careful who you complain to and the emotional intensity behind it. The universe is so loving that it doesn't see you as damaged goods. It sees you as pure potential, infinite potential for a fact, but you keep broadcasting, I'm broken goods frequency, and that's what you're going to keep receiving back. It is similar to complaining to Netflix that they keep recommending sad movies while you keep choosing to watch sad movies. Okay? The algorithm doesn't care about your complaints. It only responds to what you are viewing. So stop viewing sad movies. Choose where you want to go and move towards it. That's it. Choose the reality of where you want to go and move towards it. Neuroplasticity. That's the spelling, I'm assuming. But here's the game changer. Neuroplasticity. Big word, but it means your brain can change at any age and at any time. You're not stuck with the neural patterns created by trauma. You can literally rewire your entire nervous system. But the key is, you have to stop telling the past story, the trauma story, and you got to start telling the story of your future. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Every time you tell your trauma story with emotional intensity, you are strengthening those neural pathways. And then the story of your future is just like literally a path of dirt and gravel. And Dr. Joe Dispenza's research actually shows that when you combine clear intention with elevated emotion, you can create new neural pathways in a matter of weeks, not years. Weeks! I've witnessed people do it in days, sometimes minutes. But most of us are more committed to our trauma story, right? Our trauma story than you are at transformation. You've practiced being a victim longer than you practice being a winner. A winner. You can decide right now with an emotional intensity and energy that you can decide to be a winner right now. But you are like someone who practices piano for 20 years but only plays sad songs, right? And then wonder why they can't play happy music. Like, come on, you've been practicing sad songs the whole time. We are funny. We are funny beings. But it's not our fault, because the world is filled with brainwashing. The world wants us to keep us feeling stressed. And to break free from trauma, you need to generate elevated emotions that are stronger than the emotions of your past. So that feeling of gratitude needs to be stronger than the feeling of struggle. Love, excitement. You need to feel that more than your pain. And that's why you need to keep feeling and practicing elevated emotions. In meditation is the easiest. When you generate elevated emotions, you are literally changing your brain chemistry. You are producing different neurotransmitters, different hormones. You are becoming a different person biologically. For example, if you are stressed, you are making stressful decisions, fear-based decisions. But when you are in an elevated state of gratitude, oh my God, things are so easy. You're a different person, and you're making decisions as a grateful person. Okay? But let's talk about the past. Remember what I said, the body can't distinguish what's real or imagined. And so if you're talking about your trauma and you are experiencing the same emotions that came with it, I'm so sorry. Your body thinks you are living the trauma again. You can be sitting in your desk and you're thinking about the trauma and you are generating stress and anxiety. Oh, your body does not know what's happening. It feels like the trauma is being relived while you're sitting at your desk. But the real healing happens when you create a future that is so compelling, so emotionally charged with elevated emotions that it pulls you out of your past. And you gotta want it. You gotta want your future more than your past. It's like being so excited about where you're going that you just stopped looking at the rearview mirror altogether. Okay? You have to forget your old self. You can't drive forward while always staring backwards. Now let's be real. Some of us are so addicted to our trauma story. Why? Gives us attention, sympathy, excuses. It's easy, right? It's our get out of responsibility free card, right? Nah, I can't change because it was this person's fault. And every time someone asks why you're not successful, let me tell you why. Let me pull out my trauma story. You see, what happened was, and you tell it with so much passion, with so much emotion, like that you were there. You've memorized it, right? But here's the thing. Your story is keeping you stuck. Every time you tell it with the same emotional charge, you're living in the present moment. You're living in the past. You're putting the past in the present moment. You are like someone who keeps showing up, or who keeps showing people an old movie from, let's say, 1990s, and wondering why your life or why that movie is like outdated. It's the same thing with life. Like, come on, it's time for a new movie. Okay? It's time for a new movie. Now let's talk about the key. What is the key to all of this? It is your nervous system. Trauma isn't just stored in your mind. It's stored in your body and your nervous system. And your nervous system holds the memory of every threat, every violation, every moment of helplessness. Your nervous system. It's so amazing, your nervous system. And so to truly heal, you need to discharge this stored energy from your nervous system. Now, this is why talk therapy alone, it isn't enough. You're trying to think your way out of something that is stored in your body. Okay? And so when you learn to regulate your nervous system through breath work, movement, meditation, you now can literally release decades of stored trauma energy. If you want to get into it as well, generational trauma energy. Because it's like your body has been holding on to emotional baggage for years, right? I know we feel it. I know sometimes we feel it. Every emotion that we've tried to shove deep within us, it's still there. And so you are now finally learning how to unpack it with nervous system regulation. Your nervous system is like, okay, when can we let this go? We can actually let it go? Why didn't anyone tell me? Breath work, meditation. Find whatever works for you. Oops. I'm so sorry about this, but who am I? This is the most powerful question you can ask. You shouldn't ask, why did this happen to me? But who am I becoming because of this? Okay? Start asking a new question. Your trauma can either be your prison or your portal. It can either define your limitation or fuel your transformation. Every successful person I know has transformed their pain into purpose, their mess into their message, their trauma into their triumph. And it is a damn good story. It is a damn good story. You know what I mean? Everyone loves the rags to riches story. But that requires you to stop identifying as a victim and start identifying as a winner. Stop seeing yourself as damaged goods and start seeing yourself as someone that is either developing or someone that is whole, complete, because you are. It's only the story that you tell yourself that prevents you from experiencing the wholeness of who you are. The moment you stop being loyal to your past and start being loyal to your future, everything changes. Not gradually, but quantum leap, baby. Now, what happened to you wasn't your fault. I understand. But healing from it, that is your responsibility. Because no one else can do this work for you. You cannot control what happened to you. I understand that. But you can control what you do with what happened to you. And so sometimes we need to stop waiting for an apology that may never come. We need to stop waiting for justice that may never arrive. We need to stop waiting for someone else to fix what they broke. Because your healing is not dependent on anyone else's actions. Your future is not determined by anyone else's choices. And so you are like someone waiting for their ex to tell them to move on and be happy. But sometimes our ex doesn't tell us to move on and be happy. And so you don't need anyone else's permission to heal. Okay? Give yourself the permission. You are the permission. Alright, I'm gonna do my best, but oh, whatever. This is a phoenix. Okay? There is something called post-traumatic growth. The idea that you can actually become stronger, wiser, and more resilient because of your trauma, not despite it. This is what you need to do. You need to be reborn from the ashes. Your trauma can become your superpower if you learn to alchemize it. Okay? Alchemize just means changing from one thing to another, maybe usually in the form of a limited thing into a more empowering thing. Every wound can become wisdom. Every scar can become strength. But this requires you to stop seeing yourself as permanently damaged and start seeing yourself as already whole and reborn. Simple as that. If you need, I'm giving you the permission to see yourself as whole and reborn. Because you are. Because you are. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. There could just be a bit of lies or stories or conclusions that you've told yourself, but that can be reprogrammed. You just need to stop believing in those things. And I have worked with amazing people who have overcome incredible trauma and now are living amazing lives. The difference between them and the people who stay stuck isn't the severity or how deep the trauma was, how impactful it was. It's their relationship with it. I've realized successful people use their trauma as fuel, and unsuccessful people use it as an excuse. And at some point, you have to decide. Could be now. I would encourage you to decide right now in this video. Are you going to be defined to what happened to you? Or are you going to be defined by how you respond to what happened to you? Please remember, your trauma is not your identity. Your trauma is definitely not your destiny. And your trauma is not an excuse. It's not an excuse. Rise above it. Okay? Now, here's what to do to detach from your trauma identity. And write this down, please. Write this down. In the morning, instead of rehearsing your problems, rehearse your possibilities or rehearse your future. All you have to do is simply pick what you want. What do you want in your future? Do you want to be abundant? Do you want to have a successful business? Pick that and move towards it. In the afternoon, when you are triggered, ask yourself, how would my future self respond? Okay? In the evening, practice gratitude for how your experience are making you stronger. So simple. Okay? Rehearse your future instead of telling the story of your past and your trauma. Respond as your future self and just be grateful for your transformation. The goal is to forget your past. It's not to forget your past, but it's to stop letting your past control your future. And you don't need to pretend that your trauma didn't happen. You just need to stop letting it be the dictator of your life. And like I said, your trauma is real. Your pain is valid. But your potential is greater than both of them combined. Your potential is greater than both of them combined. And you have a choice right now. You can keep using your past as an excuse for why you can't create your future, or you can use your past as fuel for why you must create the future you want. That you must create the future that you want. And so you just got to stop being loyal to your limitations. Stop defending your dysfunction. Stop protecting your pain. Because you have survived what happened. Whatever that trauma was, whatever those experiences were, you have survived what happened to you. But now it's time to thrive because of what happened to you. And if you are still using your trauma as an excuse after seeing this video, then I'm sorry to say, you are like someone who keeps using a crutch after their leg has healed. You know what I mean? The support was necessary then, but now it's just limiting you. And so I encourage you, inspire you, stop limping through life when you can run towards your dreams. Because your past is not your prison, but it's just preparing you for greatness. All right, you have officially graduated from Victim University, and you stop using your past as an excuse to avoid your future or to avoid changing altogether. You've got all the pieces now. You're not a human pinball machine, your nervous system isn't having panic attacks, your heart and brain are working together, and you know the right sequence. You are not repelling abundance, love, or health. You're feeling real emotions, and you're protecting your meditation work. And you've stopped being best friends with your limitations and your traumas and your past. However, I want to share the biggest plot twists from this whole 8-year journey. The mistakes that made me want to throw my meditation cushion away or throw out my meditation chair out the window. And I want to share the shortcuts that actually saved me from becoming a spiritual cautionary tale. So this is everything I wish I could go back and tell myself. So I've been doing Joe's work for about 8 years now. Well, meditation for about 8 years now. And I thought I had it all figured out. But I realized I'd been doing almost everything wrong. And the worst part was that I was too embarrassed to admit it. I was the guy in the community who had all the answers. I could quote all the science, quote everything, right? Been to multiple retreats. And on the outside, yeah, it looked like I was living my dream life. But behind closed doors, I was actually struggling with the same patterns. And I experienced the post-retreat crashes twice. And I was also using meditation to avoid my emotions instead of actually dealing with them as well. So for 3 years, I was spiritually bypassing my way through life. I was doing toxic positivity, right? Pretending that forcing gratitude and chasing mystical experiences was doing the work. Meanwhile, I was actually comparing myself to everyone else's healing stories and wondering why I wasn't having the same breakthroughs. Why am I not experiencing an instant manifestation, right? And so I was slowly burning out on the very practice that was supposed to set me free. And there were so many times where I wanted to quit and just stop doing this work altogether. And then I experienced a dark night of the soul. And it was about 9 months where nothing seemed to be working. And so I questioned everything during that time as well. Now, I almost quit that entire work the most during that time. But little did I know back then that the breakdown became the breakthrough that changed everything for me. So that dark night just propelled me to where I was meant to be. Because I learned that I was making the same mistakes with Joe's work, but I wasn't even aware of. Like I was pretending it was working perfectly while I was secretly struggling with the same issues over and over again. So I want to share that with you today. The honest truth about my 8-year journey, the expensive mistakes that cost me years of progress, and what I would do completely differently if I was to start again tomorrow. Because This work is life-changing, like it really is, but only if you're not sabotaging yourself like I was. And so I want to give you a heads up to see if you're doing this to yourself as well, right? Because this work is like buying a Ferrari, but what I was doing is like, it was like I bought a Ferrari, which meant I had all the tools and necessary things that I needed, but I didn't know how to drive shift manual. And so we've got a great machine, but if we don't know how to use it, then what's the point? So during my dark night of the soul phase, it wasn't just another technique or a better way to meditate, which I needed, but it was a huge shift in how I approached this work. So I wasn't expecting better meditations, but I experienced changes in my relationships, my health, my finances, and most importantly, the relationship with myself. So I'm not here to tell you that this work doesn't work. Like, I am the proof of that. There has been so many testimonials. It absolutely does work. But I'm here to tell you how I approached the work for years, and it created unnecessary struggle and delayed transformation. So I want to take you back to when it all started. It was about 2015, and I had just discovered Dr. Joe, and it was a friend who just couldn't stop talking about this guy who was helping people heal themselves. And first thing I was like, okay, dude, cool story. When she was telling me that, I was just like, cool story. But then I kept seeing Joe everywhere, on YouTube videos, and then I finally watched my first podcast interview that he had with Tom Bilyeu, from Impact Theory. And so I bought the morning and evening meditation, and within 6 months, I was all in. I was hooked. And with that morning and evening meditation, I think about a week in, like, my relationship with my dad improved very, very quickly. But then after that, it was like I started overthinking it. And so, yeah, I created a meditation space for myself, and I was doing everything by the book. But what was really happening deep down was that I would sit down, meditate for an hour each morning, and then my mind would race the entire time. And then while my mind was racing, I would try to force myself to visualize my desired reality while my body was tense with anxiety, right? I was meditating in survival mode. Then I would visualize my desired reality. Then I would spiral into another visualization where my desired reality was falling apart because of my anxiety. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. You're trying to visualize something, and then it turns into something else that you don't want. But listen to this, right? I would also journal about profound insights that I thought I should be having, not the ones that I was actually experiencing. So I was lying to myself. But there was a time after my second retreat, and it's what I call my post-retreat crash. I came home flying, convinced that I have transformed, only to go back to my old self 3 months in after the retreat. And I was too crushed to admit, and too ashamed to admit to my friends, to the community, that I thought I was the only one failing at this work. But what I didn't realize then was that I was making mistakes in how I approached this work. Mistakes that actually mistakes that were actually reinforcing my certain interpretations of the teachings, okay, that had been common in the community as well. And so I want to talk about these mistakes because, yeah, I feel like a lot of people deal with it, especially with the friends in the community that I speak to. And the first mistake was falling into spiritual bypassing, emotional bypassing. It's simply, I was using meditation to avoid my emotions rather than process them. I was forcing myself to feel grateful, to be happy, when actually I was sad, I was angry, right? It looked like repeating affirmations about abundance while ignoring the very real anxiety. The real reason of how I felt about my finances, I was ignoring that. And it looked like meditating to escape from my problems rather than transform my problems. And I remember sitting in meditation one time, trying to desperately feel joy and gratitude. Meanwhile, my relationships were a mess. I was in a huge amount of debt, and I kept thinking, dude, you just got to meditate hard enough. You know what I mean? Just go through this, listen to what he's saying, go through the motions, right? Follow the instructions. And in my meditation, my mind's like, these problems are never going to disappear. And then I would try to post about it on Instagram with #blessed. You know what I mean? Oh my God, I was just lying to myself. And Dr. Joe talks about elevating your emotional state, but I completely misunderstood what that meant. I thought it meant suppressing negative emotions, force positive emotions, right? Just be happy. I was creating a fake mask, not actual transformation, right? And what I learned later on was that true elevated emotional states doesn't come from suppression, doesn't come from resistance. It comes from honest acknowledgement and integration. Before I could authentically access gratitude, I needed to fully feel and process my anger, my fear, my grief. It did not want to be it doesn't want to be stuck in your body. It wants to be released, so it has to be expressed. And so I stumbled upon emotional clearing before my meditations, where I would spend 10 to 15 minutes journaling about how I was actually feeling, right? No bypassing, just raw honesty, right? I'm scared about my money. I'm scared about being in debt. I'm angry at my partner. I feel like I'm a failure. I always seem to be struggling. Be truthful and honest. Because only after acknowledging these emotions could I actually begin to shift them. And here's the thing, once I stopped forcing gratitude and started being honest about my emotional state, genuine feelings of gratitude began to emerge naturally. Oh man, this one shift, if you can just take away this video, like this one thing from this video, this one shift from spiritual bypassing to being honest about how I felt, game changing, changed my practice completely. My meditations became deeper, I was more authentic, and I was more elevated because I wasn't wasting my energy suppressing my emotions. I know you know what I'm talking about, right? Wasting energy, suppressing emotions. That is exhausting. That feels fake. That is similar to hanging around friends that you don't even like and trying to put a fake mask on just to fit in with them. When I stopped faking, I finally had more energy to facilitate actual transformation. Stop spiritual bypassing. That is mistake number 1. Second mistake was the post-retreat integration failure, okay? So I would come home feeling powerful from events, but I didn't have any system to actually maintain that energy. My system was meditate for 4 hours a day to not lose this energy. That was my system. But after my first and second retreat, I had the best time. I felt connected to everything and I was convinced life would never be the same again. Came home floating on a cloud, blissed as. 3 months later, back to my old patterns. More depressed than before because now I knew what was possible, but I couldn't sustain it. That is like getting a taste of paradise and then being kicked back into ordinary life, right? That is like being with your love of your life, right? The love of your life, and then going back to swiping it on dating apps the next day. It doesn't hit the same after that. And so I blamed myself, which is the worst thing to do. I thought I wasn't disciplined enough. Damn, you stopped meditating for 4 hours a day. I thought I wasn't spiritual enough. Or maybe I just didn't understand the work enough, right? So more information, go back to more information. But what I didn't realize was that that the retreat environment is specifically designed to help with those peak experiences, to help us achieve those peak experiences. We are removed from our normal environment during the retreats, and we are surrounded by an amazing community, supportive energy, right? And then we have nothing better to do but to focus on our inner work. So I missed it completely. And the real work isn't about having those peak experiences, but it is integrating those experiences into my everyday life. And now, after every retreat, I do integration. I integrate that bridges the gap between the retreat environment and my daily life. And so how I did this is I started to maintain what I call a retreat bubble. And so for the first 72 hours coming back home, minimal interaction with the outside world, and I would continue with my intensive meditation. because I wanted to milk that energy, man. When you come back from a retreat, your energy centers are lit up. Let's just say that. Like you feel them. And so I would gradually go back to working out at the gym, slowly working on my business while maintaining the state of being of my new energy. Okay? And also I would try to memorize this state while facing challenges and obstacles in my life. Okay? Listen to that one carefully. Maintaining your state of being while facing challenges and obstacles in your life. And it wasn't about extending the retreat high until my next retreat, but it was actually creating a sustainable transition that allowed me to integrate the insights rather than crash from the insights. And so once I started to do this post-retreat integration, my post-retreat experiences have changed so much. Instead of a peak followed by a crash, I experienced a gradual integration that actually changed my baseline state of being. Okay? So develop an integration process after you attend a retreat. Now, the third mistake was I was subconsciously comparing myself. There was one point in my life where I became obsessed with other people's healing stories. And then subconsciously, I was measuring my progress against theirs, right? And, you know, in those testimonials where someone heals from a terminal illness or manifests hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars overnight, I would watch and I would think to myself, God, what is wrong with me? How come my results aren't that instant? Or why am I not getting these crazy experiences? And then I remember one time I was sitting at a retreat. I was hearing people, because in the retreat you talk about your meditation experiences with other people. And so here I am sitting at the retreat. People are sharing about their mystical experiences, seeing colors, feeling energy move throughout their body, receiving downloads from higher intelligence. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, God, what am I going to have for lunch? And then I'm wondering if I was broken because I wasn't having any of these experiences. And so, like even till this day, I want to tell you that I've only had like a handful of mystical experiences, and I've been meditating for 8 years. But transformation is unique to each and every person, right? But when you are surrounded by crazy stories, dramatic stories, it is easy to feel like you are doing something wrong if your experience is more subtle. I'm one of those people who have more subtle experiences, right? But I'm not going to call that into my life. I'm open to having big experiences. But what I didn't realize was that I was having transformations. They just didn't look like the ones that I was hearing about, right? My changes were gradual shifts in how I responded to stress, subtle improvements in my relationships, increased moments of presence in my daily life. Now, it wasn't until I started journaling my meditations, journaling my transformations, instead of comparing my journey to others. That's when it changed. I journaled how quickly I can recover from emotional triggers, how present I was in life, the small synchronicities that I encountered throughout the day, the decisions that I made from my new self than my old self, how often I caught myself from old thought patterns. That is what I started journaling. Because when I focused on things I was doing better, instead of comparing my journey to others, that is when I began to see the actual changes that I was actually making. The progress all made sense. It just looked different than I expected. And so I went from external comparison to internal tracking. And then this freed me from the shame, the inadequacy, the comparison that had been in the way of my transformation. It is so easy to give up when we are not having these crazy as experiences like everyone else's, right? Until you start honoring your own, then that's all that matters. Now, mistake number 4 that I was making was, and this is a subtle one, was misinterpreting becoming nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time. I was misinterpreting that as toxic positivity. All right, you gotta stay with me. Listen, becoming nobody, no one, no thing, nowhere, and no time is a state of pure consciousness beyond our personality. And I completely misunderstood this concept. I thought it meant that I needed to get rid of all my negative emotions, never having a bad day, basically becoming some kind of spiritual robot or a spiritual zombie, right? You can never feel negative emotions. You can never have a bad day. And so I would force myself to be positive in situations that actually required me to have a healthy sense of anger, or put my foot forward down when I needed to create a boundary when, someone was crossing the line. Instead, I would smile and say, "Oh my God, it's all perfect. Love and light, my dear." when I would be dealing with people who were treating me with like shit, love and light, right? Advancing spiritually doesn't mean never getting upset about anything. Now, this led me to have some uncomfortable situations in my relationships and in life. I became a doormat, thinking that it was the right thing to do, right? I was the nice guy, the pushover. And I forgot to use my discernment in every interaction, every circumstance. And I was the spiritual equivalent of a guy who keeps texting a girl who is clearly not interested in him. Hey girl, the universe wants us to be together. I'm manifesting our connection. Like, no bro. She's not into you, all right? And that's okay. And so I thought no judgment meant not judge anything. And that means that's silly because you're not using your discernment. But what I realized was becoming nobody isn't about suppressing the healthy functions of our personality, but it's about transcending the limitations of the ego-identified self. And so during meditation, we have to access these higher states of consciousness, and that's why we have to become nobody. And Dr. Joe actually talks about this distinction, but I filtered his teachings through my own misunderstanding. He is not advocating for abandoning discernment in daily life, right? He's offering a technique for accessing expanded states during meditation. And so my aha moment came when I realized that true spiritual maturity includes the full range of human emotions and responses, just experienced from a greater place of awareness, right? Sometimes the most spiritual action is setting a clear boundary for yourself. Sometimes it's expressing righteous anger at injustice, right? If one of your family members was getting beaten up, you better damn well protect them. And I also realized that it's okay to feel survival emotions in the short term. And so this shift from toxic positivity to integration allowed me to be both transcendent in my meditation practice and more authentic in my human experience in how I actually interact in daily life. Oh, that was a big one. Okay, remember that one. But even with these realizations, I was still missing something important. And it wasn't until I had my dark night of the soul, that dark night phase, where 9 months, nothing was happening. Quiet, silence. And I questioned everything, right? I almost quit meditating. This work, manifestation, spirituality. I almost threw it out the window. Because my meditations felt empty. The techniques that had worked before seemed hollow. And I couldn't access elevated states that had previously been available to me. So for 9 months, I showed up to my meditation every day, feeling like I was just going through the motions. Like, okay, I'm just meditating to get this over and done with. And I was questioning everything. Like, what the hell am I doing wrong? Did I waste years of my life, thousands of dollars of something that doesn't work? I stopped talking about Joe's work, stopped meditating, and I became a hermit. And you know that feeling when you are in such a survival state, survival emotion, that you just don't want to talk to anyone or ask for help? Yeah. That feeling of shame that after all this time and investment, I seem to be back at the starting line when I first initially started. It felt like being the guy who buys a gym membership in January, post about it on Instagram, posting pics, day one, right? Post on Instagram for about 2 weeks, then I disappear for the entire year until next New Year's resolution. That's what it felt like. But what I didn't realize back then was that this wasn't failure, but it was necessary it was like a death of my spiritual ego. And so all my ideas about what transformation should look like, all of these identities and achievements, all my concepts about how this work would unfold, my preconceived, stories of how it looked like, they all needed to die for real transformation to occur. But there was this one moment where a friend kicked my ass and they were like, "You got to meditate again." And I'm so grateful for her. Thank you. So I sat down to meditate with no expectations this time, right? After, I don't know, a long time of not meditating. But listen, I had finally given up trying to have a particular experience. And I had surrendered the need for this work to work in any particular type of way, specific type of way. And in that surrender moment, no expectations, something shifted. And in a quiet recognition that I had been approaching this entire journey from a fundamental misunderstanding. And it was that I had been treating this work as something to achieve. But it's not about achievement. It's not about something to achieve at all. It's about allowing and creating the conditions for transformation and then getting out of the way. And in that moment of surrender, I finally understood what Joe meant when he says, the how is not up to you. The how is not up to you. I had been trying to control my transformation instead of participating in my transformation. And after I realized that, everything changed. Not because I found some new technique, but because I've shifted how I approach this work entirely. Okay? So that was a big one. Sometimes we just need to relax and chill. And it's simple. It's consistent practice with proper technique and creating the right environment. That's it. When I just focus on this simple practice, then my external reality will match my internal state of being. Okay? When we focus on our internal state of being, external reality will match that. Now, the surrender part is what I missed completely. This is about releasing attachment to outcomes, letting go of my spiritual ego, the limited self, the old self, and allowing transformation to unfold in its own way and time. Now, the reason I say that is because if you were to literally just miraculously shed your entire self, it would be like a shock, like who the fuck am I? You know what I mean? And so my results weren't immediate or dramatic. They were subtle at first, a little more presence here and there, less reactive, less being reactive. But over time, they started to compound. And now, there's profound shifts in all areas of my life. My relationships have deepened because I was actually present instead of trying to be spiritual. My health also improved because I was actually listening to my body. And I go to the gym, so you have to get X amount of protein. But my body didn't want that. It wanted me to just ease, right? My work started becoming more fulfilling because I was bringing in authenticity, right? Instead of a selfish place. I'm coming now from a place of service instead of a selfish place. And now I create a content from a place of service, a place of giving. That's why I don't hold back. But most importantly, I found peace with myself that had always been there when I stopped spiritual bypassing and just surrendered. And I promise you it's so worth it. But this piece might be unfamiliar to you because for me, I memorized struggle, anxiety. And so realize that piece is who we truly are. Now, what would I do differently if I were to start my Joe Dispenza journey again while starting today? There are 7 specific shifts that would have saved me years of struggle. So write this down. Shift number 1 is spiritual bypassing to emotional integration. So instead of using meditation to avoid difficult emotions, I would create a practice of emotional clearing before meditation. And it just means checking up with yourself. Spend 5 to 10 minutes journaling about what you are actually feeling. Just honest emotion. Okay? Only after that, you move into your meditation practice. It's like warming up to go to the gym. Think of it as like that. Here, close your eyes, ask your heart, okay? Am I meditating to escape my emotions or to transform them? The answer is going to tell you if you are bypassing. And this is like the difference between actually cleaning your home versus shoving everything into a closet before, someone arrives. Like, okay, it looks clean, but once you open the door, or if someone opens the door, it's just chaos in there. And eventually, the closet is going to become full and the door won't even close anymore, right? Don't let that happen to you. Don't get a panic attack or something. Work with yourself. Shift number 2 is the post-retreat crash to structured integration. So if you attend retreats, please create an integration system for yourself. So for me, the 72 hours are critical, which is maintaining that retreat bubble. And man, I still want to milk that retreat energy. So it's just me time, right? It's just me time. And then I would gradually reintroduce normal activities like gym, working on my business again, my routines, going out, and while maintaining the core practices. Now, document this plan before you go to a retreat, promise. Because coming home from a retreat without an integration plan, it's like going on a first date. You have amazing chemistry, and then immediately ask them, hey, you should meet my parents, right? Let's move in together. Let's pick out baby names right now. Come on, right? And when have you heard about that being successful, right? Going too fast on the first date. So have an integration plan during a retreat. Shift number 3 is comparison to personal metrics. So stop comparing your progress with other people's experiences. Start journaling your own transformation, your own journey. Journal your meditations, your reaction time from triggers, obstacles, challenges. Journal about the presence with your loved ones, the amazing experiences that you're having. When you catch yourself making a decision as your old self or your new self, make it about you. Because look, now that I've documented everything, I can now tell this to you. And so track these consistently and celebrate your unique journey instead of comparing it to others. I'm so grateful for my journals because now I can look back on the journey. Because comparing my meditation journey to someone else's is like comparing my sex life to porn. It's not real. It's heavily edited. And nobody's actually showing the awkward parts where things don't go as planned. Okay? Focus on you. And then shift number 4 is going to be from toxic positivity to consciousness. Okay? Contextual consciousness, to be specific. Understand that becoming nobody is a meditation state, not a 24/7 personality bypass. And it gets easier the more you meditate. Right? The more you'll get more grounded and you'll get more integrated with the 5D and 3D. You'll be able to access transcendental states in meditation while still being able to engage appropriately with the full spectrum of human experiences in daily life. And remember, sometimes the most spiritual action, the most spiritual thing you can do is set a clear boundary that is loving to you, or expressing healthy anger because you're sick of someone stepping all over you, right? You're sick of someone using you. And so toxic positivity is like one of those people who respond with good vibes only, right? When you share something difficult, they're like, hey, just be happy. Stop feeling like that and just be happy. Don't be one of those people. Shift number 5 is from forcing to allowing. You got to replace trying hard with allowing deeply. Before meditation, set an intention to receive whatever experience is right for you in that moment. Just be open to receiving, not what you think should happen. After meditation, practice gratitude for whatever occurred, even if it wasn't what you expected, even if nothing occurred, right? However, nothing, what I've also hardwired belief into myself was even when nothing is happening, something is happening. Because forcing meditation is like trying to make yourself fall asleep by repeatedly telling yourself, sleep now. And now you're still telling yourself to sleep now at 2 a.m. Okay? Shift number 6 is complexity to simplicity. Master the basics like brain and heart coherence. Linger in the present moment before exploring the terrain of the void. Right? I was like the guy who bought professional camera equipment before learning how to take a decent photo with my phone. All that fancy gear doesn't make me a pro. Simplicity is key. And number 7 is shift from trying to achieve something to a process. Okay? Stop treating meditation as something to succeed at. There are no gold medals for being the best meditator. Instead, approach each session with curiosity rather than expectation. Ask, what can I discover about myself today? Instead of, how well am I doing? Okay? Or how hard am I meditating? Don't even do that. How do you even be hard at meditating? But this shift from achievement to process, for me, it removed the pressure that actually blocked my transformation. And for me, meditation is not like a CrossFit. CrossFit session. Nobody cares about your PR, right? There's no leaderboard for who accessed the quantum field the fastest, right? You are able to access the quantum field the fastest once you master the basics. And so the universe doesn't give a shit if you saw collars or just sat there breathing for 20 minutes. The best evidence for me personally wasn't in my manifestations or mystical experiences, although those did eventually come, but it was in the subtle but important shifts in how I experienced life. The 3D. You know what? Even more than that, it was how I was so aware of my patterns that you just don't want to go through that road anymore. You don't want to take the same road as what you have been doing, I don't know, for the last years of your life. I actually stopped waking up with anxiety, waking up in the middle of the night. My relationships started to become more deeper, especially with my family, more authentic. And I finally found work that aligned with my purpose, but most importantly, I developed a relationship with myself that was based on acceptance rather than constant bypassing, which I've been doing for years, and resisting myself. Oh, don't get me started on resistance. Because once I stopped trying so hard to transform, that's actually when the real transformation began to unfold naturally. And once I released the need for specific outcomes, the actual outcomes that I'd been seeking started to appear. And it was often in ways that I couldn't have anticipated or imagined. Because remember, the how is not up to us. It's not our job. Okay? Our job is to change ourselves and to create conditions for it and then get out of the way. That's it. That is it. So, if you have been struggling with Joe's work, if you've ever felt like you are doing something wrong, if you've experienced post-retreat crashes or go back to your old self after a retreat, if you have compared yourself to others, and maybe you come up feeling inadequate, then I want you to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. I've been through it. Other people that I've talked to been through it as well. And the challenges that I've described today are incredibly common. But they are rarely discussed in the community because, I don't know, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it. We're all trying to look like we have our shit together. Oh my goodness. But, I don't know. I'm ready to stop faking. And I'm just ready to be that authentic self. And hopefully I can inspire you to do the same. But, try something right now, right? Let's do it. Take a moment to check in with yourself honestly. How have you been approaching this work? Have you been striving, forcing, comparing like I did? Or have you been allowing, accepting yourself, honoring your unique journey? And there is no right or wrong, right? Even if you have been forcing or trying instead of allowing, there's no right or wrong. It's just awareness. And awareness is always the first step towards change. Wow, there it is. 8 years of spiritual faceplants, meditation mishaps, and manifestation disasters all rolled into one system that actually works. Now here's the deal. I could have saved myself years of frustration, thousands of dollars, and countless "what the heck am I doing wrong? Is something wrong with me?" moments. And if someone had just laid this out for me in the beginning, that would have been the case. But if you are someone who's done all the work, read all the books, done the courses, and even hired coaches, but you still feel like you're stuck at an invisible ceiling, then here's what I want you to know. The real shift doesn't come from trying harder, but it comes from upgrading the identity and the nervous system that actually run the show. Because that's what changed with everything for me and my clients like Laika, Tanya, and Zarina as well, and Tucker. So if you want to see exactly how we broke down these old patterns for good and how you can map out your own breakthrough, there is a link in the description that takes you straight to the details of my private mentorship. And if you follow the sequence, you'll see how the process actually works and why it's different from everything else out there. So if you are ready to stop circling the same problems, creating the same reality, just in a different day, and step into your next level, then click on the link. Let's see if it's a good fit. And if it is, then let's talk. That's it. That's the whole thing. This isn't about becoming some enlightened guru who only speaks in riddles, analogies, and poems. But it's about becoming the main character in your own life instead of the background extra in everyone else's drama. Come on. Your future self is probably watching this right now, like saying, finally, what took you so long?